The bullet meant for Emily Carter ripped through the air at Gate 47. In that split second, as death screamed toward the billionaire's daughter, a baggage handler named Jack Turner made a choice that would shatter everything she believed about heroes. He dove forward, his worn uniform catching the fluorescent lights, and took the shot that should have killed her. Blood pooled on the linoleum as chaos erupted through the terminal. But the real shock wasn't the assassination attempt. It was discovering that the man bleeding for her was a single father who'd been invisible to her world until the moment he saved it. Welcome to a story that proves heroes don't always wear suits or carry badges. Stick with me until the end and drop a comment about which city you're watching from. I love seeing how far these stories travel. The morning had started like any other at Chicago O'Hare International Airport. Jack Turner's alarm had gone off at 4:30 a.m., just like it had every weekday for the past 3 years. He'd quietly slipped out of bed, careful not to wake his 6-year-old son Tommy, who was sprawled across his Spider-Man sheets with one arm dangling off the edge of the mattress. Jack had stood in the doorway for a moment, watching the gentle rise and fall of his son's chest, before heading to the kitchen to prepare Tommy's lunch for school, peanut butter and jelly, cut diagonally, just the way he liked it, with a note that read, "Be brave today, champ. Love, Dad." By 5:15 a.m., Jack was in his beat-up 2008 Honda Civic, nursing a thermos of black coffee as he navigated the pre-dawn darkness toward the airport. The radio played softly, some talk show host droning on about the latest political scandal, but Jack's mind was elsewhere. Tommy needed new shoes. The sole of his left sneaker was starting to separate, and the rent was due in 5 days. Jack did the mental math he'd done 100 times before. After Bill's groceries and Tommy's after-school care, he'd have maybe $40 left. The shoes would have to wait another week. He pulled into the employee parking lot at 5:45 a.m., 15 minutes before his shift. The security checkpoint for employees was already busy with the morning crew filing in janitors, food service workers, and fellow baggage handlers like himself. Jack nodded to Marcus, who worked the belt next to his. "Morning, Jack," and Marcus called out, his voice still gravelly with sleep. "How's Tommy?" "Good," Jack replied, pulling on his reflective vest. "Lost another tooth last night. Kid's gonna be rich if the tooth fairy keeps up these inflation rates." Marcus laughed, a warm sound that echoed off the concrete walls of the employee area. "Man, I remember those days. My oldest went through a phase where she tried to pull them out early for the cash." They made their way to the tarmac, where the morning rush was already in full swing. Planes lined up like sleeping giants, their windows dark, except for the occasional flicker of cabin preparation. Jack's section was Terminal 2 Gates 4050, handling primarily domestic flights with the occasional international departure. It was hard work lifting loading sorting, but it was honest and it kept food on the table. As the sun began to paint the eastern horizon in shades of orange and pink, Jack lost himself in the rhythm of the work. Bag after bag, cart after cart, plane after plane. His back ached. It always did these days, but he pushed through. This was for Tommy. Everything was for Tommy. Meanwhile, 3 terminals away, Emily Carter was having an entirely different kind of morning. She stood in the first-class lounge, her Louboutin heels clicking impatiently against the marble floor as she spoke rapid-fire into her phone. "No, Marcus, I specifically said the Singapore merger documents needed to be ready before I landed. This is unacceptable." Her voice carried the kind of authority that came from 28 years of never hearing the word no. "I don't care if legal needs more time. Tell them they should have thought of that last week." She ended the call with a sharp tap and immediately dialed another number. Her father, Richard Carter, CEO of Carter Industries, answered on the first ring. "Emily, darling, are you at the airport?" "Yes, Dad. The Milan flight's been delayed 30 minutes. Mechanical issue, they claim, though I suspect it's just incompetence." She picked up her espresso, made incorrectly too much foam, and frowned at it. "Did you review the Castellani proposal?" "I did. It needs work. Their evaluation of our European distribution network is laughably outdated." "I'll handle it when I land," Emily said, already mentally restructuring the deal. "The Italians always try to lowball on the first pass. They respect you more if you push back hard." "That's my girl," Richard said, pride evident in his voice. "Your mother would have been proud to see you handle these negotiations." Emily's expression softened slightly at the mention of her mother, who had passed 5 years earlier. "Thanks, Dad." I should go. They're calling for boarding soon. Emily, wait. Her father's tone shifted, becoming more serious. Have you noticed anything unusual lately? Any strange cars? Unexpected encounters? Dad, not this again. I told you I don't need a bodyguard. I'm flying commercial specifically to keep a low profile. Humor me. Peterson said there's been some chatter. Peterson sees threats in his coffee grounds, Emily interrupted. I'm fine. I'll call you when I land in Milan. She ended the call before he could protest further. Her father's paranoia had been getting worse lately, ever since the attempted kidnapping of a rival CEO's daughter 6 months ago. But Emily refused to live in fear. She'd built her life on being strong, independent, untouchable. As she gathered her things to head to her gate, Emily caught her reflection in the lounge's mirror. Designer suit, perfectly tailored blonde hair pulled back in a sleek chignon makeup, flawless despite the early hour. She was the image of success, of power, of control. Everything in her life was exactly as it should be. She had no idea that in less than 2 hours, all of that control would shatter. Jack was taking his first break of the morning when it happened. He just sat down on a bench near Gate 47, unwrapping the sandwich he'd packed turkey and Swiss, nothing fancy, when he heard the first scream. It wasn't the usual kind of airport scream, the frustrated cry of a missed flight or a toddler's tantrum. This was pure terror, sharp and primal, cutting through the ambient noise like a blade. Jack was on his feet before his conscious mind had even processed the sound. 20 feet away, he saw her, a young woman in an expensive suit, running in heels that she'd clearly not chosen for sprinting. Behind her, 3 men in dark clothing were pushing through the crowd, their intentions written in every aggressive stride. "Move everyone down!" one of the men shouted, and Jack's blood went cold as he saw the gun. The crowd erupted into chaos. People dove behind chairs, parents grabbed children, elderly travelers froze in confusion. But Jack's eyes stayed locked on the woman. She stumbled her heel, catching on someone's abandoned luggage, and went down hard. Time seemed to slow. Jack saw the lead pursuer raise his weapon, saw the woman trying to scramble backward on her hands, saw the finger tightening on the trigger. He didn't think. He just moved. Later, when investigators would review the security footage, they would clock Jack's sprint at approximately 4 seconds. 4 seconds to cover 20 feet to make a decision that would change everything. But for Jack, those 4 seconds felt like 4 hours. His mind, in that strange way that happens during crisis, cataloged everything. The woman's eyes green-wide with terror. The gunman's stance, amateur, holding the weapon too high. The bystanders, a mother shielding her twin boys, an elderly man frozen mid-step, a teenage girl filming on her phone. And Tommy. God, Tommy. His son's face flashed through his mind. Those gap-toothed grins. The way he still asked for one more story at bedtime. The crayon drawing on the refrigerator labeled, "My Daddy, My Hero," in shaky 6-year-old handwriting. But Jack couldn't let this woman die. Not when he could do something about it. He hit her just as the gun fired. His body covered hers completely, driving them both to the ground. The bullet, which would have struck her center mass, instead tore through Jack's shoulder, spinning him slightly, but not knocking him off her. The pain was immediate and overwhelming, a white-hot spike that radiated from his shoulder down through his entire left side. But Jack held on, keeping the woman pressed flat against the floor. "Stay down," he managed to gasp. "You'll be safe." Emily's world had narrowed to sensations. The cold of the airport floor against her cheek, the warm wetness spreading across her back, blood, she realized, with a disconnected sort of horror. The weight of the stranger's body shielding hers, the sound of her own heartbeat, impossibly loud. More gunshots, but distant now, shouting, running feet, sirens. Sir, are you okay?" She tried to turn to see the man who'd saved her, but his weight kept her pinned. Don't move yet," he said, his voice strained. "Not till security. You're hurt. Oh God, you're shot. Someone help. We need help here." Airport security was already converging on their position, weapons drawn, shouting commands. The attackers had scattered, 2 running toward the exit, 1 cornered near a gift shop. Emily could hear, rather than see, the takedown, the sounds of struggle and arrest. "Clear. We need medical here now." A security officer was suddenly beside them, carefully rolling Jack off her. Emily sat up and immediately wished she hadn't. The man, her savior, was lying on his back, his blue airport employee uniform soaked with blood. His face was pale eyes unfocused, but he was still conscious. "The woman," he mumbled. "Is she—" "I'm okay," Emily said, crawling over to him, despite the security officer's attempts to hold her back. "I'm okay because of you." She pressed her hands against his shoulder, trying to stop the bleeding, her expensive suit immediately ruined with his blood. "What's your name?" "Jack." He managed his eyes focusing on her for a moment. "Jack Turner." "Jack, you're going to be okay. Help is coming. Just stay with me." Paramedics swarmed in, moving with practiced efficiency. Emily was pulled back, a female officer guiding her away despite her protests. "Ma'am, we need to get you to safety. There could be more—" "I'm not leaving him." "Ma'am, please, you're Richard Carter's daughter, correct? We have protocols." "I don't care about protocols." Emily's voice cracked. "That man just saved my life." But she was already being ushered away, surrounded by a protective circle of security. The last thing she saw was Jack being lifted onto a stretcher, an oxygen mask over his face, paramedics working frantically as they wheeled him toward the exit. The secure room they brought Emily to was sterile and windowless somewhere in the bowels of the airport that regular travelers never saw. An FBI agent named Director Sarah Mitchell sat across from her, having arrived within 30 minutes of the shooting. "Ms. Carter, I need you to tell me everything. Start from when you arrived at the airport." Emily recounted the morning, her hands still shaking, Jack's blood still under her fingernails. "I didn't notice anyone following me. I was on the phone mostly." "These men, had you seen them before?" "No, I don't think so. Everything happened so fast." Mitchell nodded, making notes on her tablet. "We've apprehended 2 of the 3 attackers. They're not talking yet, but we will get answers. This appears to have been a targeted attack." "My father was right," Emily said quietly, the admission bitter on her tongue. "He wanted me to have security. Your father's already been notified. He's on his way here with a full security detail." Mitchell paused, studying Emily. "The man who saved you, Jack Turner. What can you tell me about him?" "Nothing. I'd never seen him before. He just appeared. Threw himself between me and the bullet." Emily's voice caught. "Is he okay? Can you at least tell me that—" Mitchell's expression softened slightly. "He's in surgery. That's all I know right now. I need to know more about him. He saved my life. I need to—" "Ms. Carter, I understand, but right now our priority is your safety, until we know more about who ordered this attack and why." "Director Mitchell," Emily interrupted, steel entering her voice despite her shock. "That man has a name tag that says Turner. He was wearing an airport uniform. How hard can it be to pull his employee file?" Mitchell hesitated, then tapped on her tablet. After a moment, she looked up with an unreadable expression. "Jack Turner, age 32. Employed as a baggage handler at O'Hare for 3 years. Clean record, no arrests, not even a parking ticket. Single father to a 6-year-old son named Tommy. Wife died in a car accident 4 years ago." Emily felt something twist in her chest. He has a son. According to this, yes, listed as his emergency contact along with a sister who lives in Milwaukee. "Oh, God." Emily pressed her hands to her face. "He has a 6-year-old son and he threw himself in front of a bullet for a complete stranger." "For you," Mitchell corrected. "The question is why. We need to investigate any possible connection." Connection. Emily's head snapped up. "You think he was involved?" "I have to consider all possibilities. It's quite a coincidence that he was right there at exactly the right moment." "He was on his break," Emily said firmly. "I saw the sandwich. No one sets up an elaborate assassination plot and then brings a turkey sandwich." Despite the situation, Mitchell's lips twitched slightly. "Fair point, but we'll still need to verify." The door burst open. Richard Carter stood there, flanked by 2 massive bodyguards, his face a mask of barely controlled panic. "Emily?" "Dad." She was in his arms before she'd even consciously decided to move, and for a moment she let herself be his little girl again, safe in her father's embrace. "Thank God you're okay, chum," he whispered into her hair. "When Peterson called, I thought—" "I'm fine, Dad. I'm fine." Richard pulled back, examining her, taking in the blood on her clothes. Whose blood is this? The man who saved me. Dad, he took a bullet for me. A complete stranger took a bullet for me. Richard's expression hardened. Who is he? What's his angle? He doesn't have an angle. He's a baggage handler, a single father who makes maybe $30,000 a year, and he threw himself between me and a gun. Everyone has an angle, Emily. No, she said firmly. Not him. Not Jack Turner. The name seemed to mean something to Richard. He turned to Mitchell. Turner, run that name through every database you have. I want to know everything about him, where he grew up, where he went to school, who his friends are, what he had for breakfast last Tuesday. Already in process, Mr. Carter, Mitchell assured him. Dad, stop. He saved my life. The least we can do is make sure he and his son are taken care of. Richard studied his daughter. We will. If he's legitimate, he'll be rewarded. But Emily, you have to understand, in our world, heroes often have hidden motives. Maybe in your world, Emily shot back. But I just learned there's another world, Dad. One where people like Jack Turner exist. People who do the right thing just because it's right. Meanwhile, 3 floors up in the surgical wing, Jack Turner was fighting for his life. The bullet had done more damage than initially thought, nicking an artery and lodging dangerously close to his spine. Dr. Patricia Hernandez worked with steady hands, aware that the man on her table had become something of a celebrity in the last 2 hours. Pressure's dropping, the anesthesiologist warned. I see it. Clamp here. We need to stabilize this artery before we can even think about the bullet. In the hallway outside, Jack's sister Maria had arrived from Milwaukee, having broken every speed limit on I-94. She paced the corridor, her phone clutched in her hand. No, Tommy's fine. He's at school. They don't know yet, she said to someone on the other end. I'll pick him up regular time. I don't want to scare him. Yes, I'll call as soon as I know something. She hung up and immediately dialed another number. Marcus? It's Maria, Jack's sister. Yeah, it's all over the news. No, I don't know how bad yet. They won't tell me anything. Can you get his shift covered for the next few days? Thanks, Marcus. He'd appreciate that. A woman in an expensive suit approached not Emily, but clearly cut from the same cloth. Ms. Turner. Yes. I'm Patricia Williams' attorney for Carter Industries. Mr. Carter wanted me to assure you that all of your brother's medical expenses will be covered and will ensure his position at the airport is held for him. Maria's eyes narrowed. In exchange for what? Nothing. Mr. Turner saved Mr. Carter's daughter. This is the least we can do. The least, Maria repeated. Right. And what about Tommy? My brother's whole world is that little boy. If something happens to Jack, we're hoping that won't be the case, but if the worst should happen, the Carter family will ensure Tommy is provided for. Money won't replace his father. No, Patricia agreed quietly. It won't. Back in the secure room, Emily was growing increasingly agitated. It had been 3 hours since the shooting, and all anyone could tell her was that Jack was still in surgery. I need to do something, she told her father. I can't just sit here. The best thing you can do is stay safe, Richard said. We still don't know who ordered the attack or if they'll try again. Then find out, Emily snapped. You have contacts everywhere. Someone knows something. Richard exchanged glances with Peterson, his head of security. We're working on it. The 2 men we caught aren't professional killers. They're hired muscle, probably brought in from out of state. Someone wanted this to look like a kidnapping gone wrong. Who? The list of people who might want leverage over me is not short, Emily, but we'll find them. Mitchell re-entered the room, her expression grave. We found the 3rd attacker, dead, shot execution style about a mile from the airport. Tying up loose ends, Peterson muttered. Which means this was definitely professional, even if the foot soldiers weren't, Mitchell continued. Ms. Carter, I'm recommending you be placed in protective custody until— No! Emily stood up. I'm not hiding, and I want to see Jack Turner. He's still in surgery, Mitchell said. Then I'll wait. Emily, be reasonable, her father started. Dad, that man might die because of me. The least I can do is be there when he wakes up, if he wakes up. It's not safe. Then make it safe. Emily's voice echoed off the walls. You have enough money and power to buy a small country. Figure out how to secure a hospital room. Richard studied his daughter for a long moment, then nodded to Peterson. Make it happen. 2 hours later, Emily stood outside the ICU looking through the glass at Jack Turner. He'd survived the surgery, though the doctors warned he wasn't out of the woods yet. The next 24 hours would be critical. He looked smaller in the hospital bed, vulnerable in a way that seemed at odds with the man who'd thrown himself into danger without hesitation. His face was peaceful, almost boyish, though she could see the lines that spoke of hard work and harder times. "His son's here," a nurse said softly beside her. The sister brought him. "They're in the family waiting room." Emily's heart clenched. Would it be appropriate for me to meet them?" The nurse hesitated. "I suppose that's up to you, ma'am." Emily found them in a small room down the hall. Maria Turner looked like her brother, same dark hair, same determined jaw. She was kneeling beside a small boy who was coloring in a Spider-Man coloring book with intense concentration. "Ms. Turner," Maria looked up immediately, recognizing Emily despite having never met her. "You're her, the woman Jack saved." "Yes, I wanted to thank you, and to meet." She looked at the boy. "Tommy," Maria supplied. "Tommy, this is Ms. Carter. She's a friend of your dad's." Tommy looked up with eyes exactly like his father's. "Are you why my daddy's in the hospital?" The innocent question hit Emily like a physical blow. Yes. But your daddy's a hero, Tommy. He saved me." "He's always a hero," Tommy said matter-of-factly, returning to his coloring. "He saves me from monsters under my bed all the time." Emily had to blink back tears. She turned to Maria. "Whatever you need, whatever he needs, anything at all." "We don't need charity," Maria said, though not unkindly. "It's not charity. Your brother saved my life. I owe him everything." He wouldn't see it that way. Jack doesn't do things expecting rewards. "I know," Emily said softly. "That's what makes this so much harder." A commotion in the hallway drew their attention. Richard Carter had arrived with his full security detail, transforming the quiet hospital wing into something resembling a fortress. "Emily, there you are." He took in the scene his daughter with the Turner family, and his expression tightened slightly. "We should go. The press has gotten wind of the story. This place will be swarming soon." "I'm not leaving." "Emily." "Dad, look at this little boy. His father is lying in the ICU because of me. I'm not leaving." Tommy looked up at the raised voices, his lower lip trembling slightly. "Is my daddy going to be okay?" Emily knelt down beside him, her designer dress pooling on the floor. "The doctors are taking really good care of him. Your daddy's very strong." "I know," Tommy said. "He can lift me all the way up to the ceiling." "I bet he can." Tommy studied her for a moment with that unnerving directness children sometimes have. "You're pretty. Are you a princess?" Despite everything, Emily smiled. "No, I'm not a princess. My daddy says all girls are princesses, even if they don't have crowns." The tears Emily had been fighting finally won. One slipped down her cheek before she could stop it. "Don't cry," Tommy said, reaching out to pat her hand. "Daddy says tears are just love looking for a place to go." "Your daddy sounds very wise." "He is. He knows everything, even math." Maria watched this interaction with a complex expression. "Tommy, why don't you show Miss Carter your drawing?" Tommy held up his coloring book, where he'd been carefully staying within the lines of Spider-Man's web. "I'm making it for Daddy, for when he wakes up." "It's beautiful," Emily said. "He'll love it." Richard cleared his throat. "Emily, the administrator, needs to speak with us about security arrangements." She stood reluctantly. "I'll be back," she told Maria. "If there's any change, anything at all, please have them find me." Maria nodded. "Thank you for caring." As Emily walked away with her father, she heard Tommy ask his aunt, "Why was the pretty lady crying?" "Because your daddy did something very brave, sweetheart." "Oh, he does that a lot." The next 18 hours passed in a blur. The story had indeed hit the news. Hero baggage handler saves billionaire's daughter. Jack's employee photo was on every channel alongside footage of the chaos at the airport. Social media exploded with praise for the everyday hero with a GoFundMe for Tommy's education, raising 6 figures in a matter of hours. Emily spent most of that time in a secured wing of the hospital monitoring Jack's condition and fighting with her father about everything from security protocols to the press response. She'd managed to sneak back to see Tommy twice, bringing him a brand new set of superhero coloring books and some toys from the gift shop. "You don't have to do this," Maria had said. "Yes, I do," Emily had replied. "Besides, he's keeping me sane. Do you know he asked if I wanted to color with him? When's the last time someone asked me to do something that simple?" It was just after dawn the next day when the nurse found Emily dozed off in the waiting room chair. "Miss Carter, he's awake. He's asking for his son, but I thought you'd want to know." Emily was on her feet immediately. "Can I see him?" 5 minutes. He's still very weak." Jack's eyes were closed when she entered, but they opened at the sound of her heels on the floor. It took him a moment to focus to recognize her. "You're okay." His voice was barely a whisper. "Thanks to you." She moved closer to the bed. "Jack, I don't know how to thank you." "Don't need thanks." He tried to shift and winced. "Tommy, he's fine. He's with your sister. He made you a picture." A ghost of a smile crossed Jack's face. "Spider-Man. How did you know? It's always Spider-Man." His eyes found hers again. "The men, they were after you specifically." "Yes. We think my father has enemies. I'm so sorry you got pulled into this." "Not your fault. It literally is. If I hadn't been there, then you'd be dead." His voice gained a little strength. "Couldn't let that happen. Why?" The question that had been haunting her burst out. "You don't know me. You have a son to think about. Why would you risk everything for a stranger?" Jack was quiet for so long, she thought he might have fallen back asleep. Then he spoke, his voice soft but clear. "My wife, Sarah, she died 4 years ago. Car accident, drunk driver." He paused, gathering strength. "She was coming home from her shift at the hospital. She was a nurse, helped people every day. The drunk driver walked away without a scratch." Emily said nothing, sensing there was more. "I was angry for so long, at the driver, at God, at her for leaving us, at myself for not being there." He turned his head slightly to look at her directly. "But then I realized Sarah would have hated that. She always said the only thing that matters is what we do for each other, the choices we make when it counts. So you chose to save me. I chose to be the man my son thinks I am, the man Sarah loved." He winced again. "Besides, couldn't let Tommy grow up in a world where people don't help each other." Emily felt tears threatening again. "Your son is lucky to have you. I'm lucky to have him." Jack's eyes were starting to droop. "Should probably see him. He's coming. Your sister's bringing him, but you need to rest first." "Ms. Carter. Emily, please." "Emily." The name seemed to take effort. "Don't blame yourself. I'd do it again." "That's what terrifies me," she admitted. But Jack was already drifting back to sleep, the ghost of a smile still on his face. Emily stood there for a moment longer, watching him breathe, this ordinary man who'd done something extraordinary. Her phone buzzed, her father demanding an update, but she ignored it. Outside the room, Peterson was waiting. "Ms. Carter, we've had a development. One of the attackers is willing to talk in exchange for protection. And it's as we suspected. The hit was ordered by Vincent Castellani." Emily's blood ran cold. "The Italian deal. He knew I was flying to Milan to reject his offer. It appears he wanted leverage over your father. Kidnap you, force the merger." "That son of a—" Emily caught herself remembering they were in a hospital. "My father knows. He's handling it. The FBI is already moving on Castellani's U.S. assets." Emily nodded, but her mind was elsewhere. "Peterson, I want you to do something for me." "Ma'am, Jack Turner and his son. I want security on them, discreet but comprehensive. If Castellani's people even think about retaliating—" "Already done, ma'am. Your father's orders." For once, Emily was grateful for her father's paranoia. The reunion between Jack and Tommy happened 2 hours later, and Emily watched from the doorway as the little boy carefully climbed onto the bed, mindful of his father's injuries. "Daddy, you got hurt." "Just a little, buddy. I'm okay. Aunt Maria said you were very brave." "Sometimes being brave is important. Like Spider-Man. Like Spider-Man." Tommy carefully unfolded his drawing. "I made this for you, so you feel better." "It's perfect, Tommy. We'll put it right here where I can see it." Emily started to back away to give them privacy, but Tommy spotted her. "Pretty lady, you came back." Jack's eyes found hers over his son's head. "Tommy, remember your manners." "Sorry." "Pretty lady, Miss Carter. You came back." "I did," Emily said, entering the room. "I wanted to make sure your dad was okay." "He's tough," Tommy informed her seriously. "One time he moved our whole couch by himself." "That is tough." Tommy looked between his father and Emily with that calculating look children get when they're working something out. "Are you going to be friends now?" Jack and Emily exchanged glances. "I hope so," Emily said. "Good. Daddy needs more friends. He only talks to Uncle Marcus and Aunt Maria." "Tommy," Jack said, a note of warning in his voice. "It's true you said so. You said making friends is hard when you're a grown-up." Emily couldn't help but smile. "Your dad's right. It is hard." "Maybe you could come to our house for dinner," Tommy suggested. "Daddy makes really good spaghetti." "Tommy," Jack started, his face flushing. "I'd love that," Emily said quickly. "Once your dad is feeling better." Tommy beamed. "And you could see my room. I have 17 dinosaurs." 17 exactly. I counted. Daddy helped. The conversation was interrupted by Richard Carter's arrival, his presence immediately changing the atmosphere of the room. Tommy pressed closer to his father, intimidated by the imposing man in the expensive suit. "Mr. Turner," Richard said formally, "I wanted to thank you personally for saving my daughter's life." "Just did what anyone would do," Jack replied, his arm tightening protectively around Tommy. "No," Richard said firmly. "Most people would have run. You didn't. That means something." He reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. "This is a small token of our gratitude." Jack didn't move to take it. "I don't want your money, Mr. Carter. It's not charity. You saved my daughter, my only child. There's no amount that could truly repay that, but then don't try." Jack's voice was quiet but firm. "I didn't do it for money." Richard studied him for a long moment. "What do you want then?" "Nothing. I want nothing from you." "Everyone wants something." "Dad," Emily warned. Jack looked down at Tommy, then back up at Richard. "I want my son to grow up knowing his father did the right thing. That's all." Richard seemed genuinely taken aback. He stood there, envelope still extended, as if he couldn't quite process someone refusing what was undoubtedly a substantial check. "Mr. Carter," Jack continued, "if you want to do something, donate that money to the hospital, or to the school, or to families who've lost someone to violence, but I won't take payment for being decent." Slowly, Richard lowered the envelope. "You're either the most honest man I've ever met, or the best con artist." "Dad," Emily snapped. "It's okay," Jack said. "He's protecting you. I get it. I'd do the same for Tommy." The two fathers looked at each other across the hospital room, and something passed between them, an understanding perhaps, or at least a recognition. "The offer stands," Richard finally said. "If you change your mind, if you need anything, medical bills, Tommy's education, anything, you call." "The hospital says the bills are covered. That's more than enough." Richard nodded slowly, then turned to leave. At the door he paused. "For what it's worth, Mr. Turner, I'm glad my daughter had you there yesterday." After he left, the room felt somehow lighter. Tommy, who'd been unusually quiet during the exchange, piped up. "That man was scary." "He was just worried about Emily," Jack explained. "Sometimes when we're worried, we seem scarier than we mean to." "Were you worried yesterday?" Jack and Emily exchanged glances again. "A little," Jack admitted, "but you did it anyway. Sometimes we do things even when we're scared, buddy. That's what courage is." Tommy seemed to consider this. "Like when I went down the big slide even though I was scared." Exactly like that. Emily's phone buzzed. Her assistant reminding her she had a conference call with Milan in 30 minutes, damage control for the failed meeting, the real world creeping back in. I should go, she said reluctantly. Thank you for coming, Jack said, for being so kind to Tommy. Thank you for saving my life. They looked at each other and Emily felt something she couldn't quite name. Not attraction exactly, though. Jack was handsome in a rugged, everyday sort of way. It was more like recognition, as if she'd found something she hadn't known she was looking for. Ms. Carter, Tommy said, will you really come for spaghetti? If your dad invites me, absolutely. Daddy, invite her. Despite everything, Jack laughed, then immediately regretted it as pain shot through his shoulder. Easy, buddy. Let me get out of the hospital first. But then you'll invite her. Jack looked at Emily, and she saw a mix of embarrassment and something else, hope, maybe, if she wants to come. I want to, Emily said, surprising herself with how much she meant it. As she left the room, she heard Tommy say, I like her, Daddy. She's nice, and she didn't treat me like a baby. No, Jack agreed softly. She didn't. Emily paused in the hallway, letting those words wash over her. When was the last time someone had liked her just for being nice? Not for her money, her connections, her power, just for being nice. Her phone rang. Milan, the real world. But for the first time in her adult life, Emily Carter looked at the incoming call from a multi-million-dollar client and hit decline. She had some thinking to do. The weeks that followed Jack's release from the hospital passed in a strange new rhythm for Emily Carter. She found herself thinking about the Turner family at the oddest moments during board meetings. When someone droned on about profit margins, she'd remember Tommy's innocent question about whether she was a princess. During charity galas, where everyone wanted something from her, she'd think about Jack refusing her father's check with quiet dignity. 3 weeks after the shooting, she stood outside a modest 2-story house in Riverside, a working-class neighborhood 40 minutes from downtown Chicago. The promised spaghetti dinner had finally been arranged, though it had taken considerable persuasion on Tommy's part relayed through Maria during Jack's follow-up appointments that Emily had discreetly attended. She'd agonized over what to wear, finally settling on jeans and a simple sweater, clothes she'd had to buy specifically for this occasion, as her wardrobe consisted entirely of business suits and evening gowns. The Uber driver had given her a strange look when she'd provided the address, clearly wondering what someone from her part of town was doing here. Jack answered the door, still favoring his left side, though he was moving much better than the last time she'd seen him. He'd shaved, she noticed, and was wearing a clean button-down shirt that had been carefully ironed. You came, he said, as if he hadn't quite believed she would. I promised Tommy, she replied, then softened her words with a smile. And I wanted to. Emily! Tommy's voice exploded from somewhere inside the house, followed by the thunder of small feet on stairs. He burst into view, skidding to a stop just before crashing into her legs. You really came! I told everyone at school you were coming, but Bradley didn't believe me and said I was making it up, but I wasn't. And now you're here, and I was right. The run-on sentence delivered at breathless speed made Emily laugh. Hello, Tommy. Of course I came. Come see my room. I cleaned it and everything. Daddy said I had to because we had a special guest. Tommy let Ms. Carter come inside first, Jack said, stepping back to allow her entry. The house was small but meticulously clean, with the kind of organizational system that spoke of limited space being maximized. The living room held a worn but comfortable-looking couch, a coffee table with one corner reinforced with duct tape, and a modest TV. But what drew Emily's attention were the photographs covering one wall Jack and a beautiful woman with kind eyes who must have been Sarah Tommy as a baby, as a toddler, at various birthday parties, a life documented in Walmart frames. That's Mommy, Tommy said, following her gaze. She's in heaven now. She was beautiful, Emily said softly. Daddy says I have her eyes. Emily looked down at the boy and could see it was true, the same warm brown, the same spark of life. Come on. Tommy grabbed her hand, his small fingers wrapping around hers with absolute trust. I want to show you everything. The tour was exhaustive and enthusiastic. Tommy's room was indeed clean, his dinosaur collection displayed with museum-like precision on a bookshelf Jack had clearly built himself. Each dinosaur had a name and a backstory that Tommy related in detail. Then there was the bathroom, where Tommy had lost his first tooth, the kitchen where Daddy made the best grilled cheese in the whole world, and the backyard where they tried to build a fort, but it fell down because Daddy's not really good at hammers. "Thanks for that, buddy," Jack said dryly, following them around with an expression of bemused affection. Dinner was exactly as promised. Spaghetti with homemade sauce that was surprisingly good, garlic bread that was slightly burnt on one side, and a salad that Tommy openly regarded with suspicion. "You have to eat some vegetables," Jack said firmly. "But Emily's here. Can't we have special rules yet? Nice try. 3 bites." Tommy sighed dramatically, but complied, making sure Emily witnessed his sacrifice. The conversation flowed more easily than Emily had expected. Tommy carried most of it, regaling her with stories from school, his thoughts on various superheroes, and detailed descriptions of every pet he hoped to have someday. Jack interjected occasionally to fact-check the more elaborate claims, but mostly he watched a soft smile on his face. "Do you have any pets?" Tommy asked Emily. "No, I travel too much for work." "What do you do?" Tommy's face scrunched up. "Daddy said you're important, but he didn't say why." Emily glanced at Jack, who looked slightly embarrassed. "I help run a company. Like Mr. Peterson, who runs the grocery store?" "Something like that, but bigger." "Wow, do you get free groceries?" Emily laughed. "No, we make different things, mostly technology, computers and phones and things like that." Tommy's eyes widened. "Could you make me a phone? Bradley has one, and he's only 7 and I'm 6 3/4. "Tommy, we've talked about this," Jack said. "No phone until you're older." "But Dad—" "No buts." Tommy turned to Emily with a conspiratorial whisper that was loud enough for Jack to hear. "Maybe you could talk to him." "I think your dad knows what's best," Emily said diplomatically, though she was charmed by the attempt. After dinner, while Jack cleaned up, refusing Emily's offers to help, Tommy pulled out a board game that looked like it had seen better days. Half the cards were held together with tape, and one of the playing pieces had been replaced with a button. "We play this every Friday," Tommy explained. "But now you can play too." They played 3 rounds with Tommy, winning twice through what Emily suspected was creative interpretation of the rules that Jack allowed. She couldn't remember the last time she'd done something so simple, so normal. Her Friday nights were usually spent at business dinners or working late, not playing board games held together with tape and hope. "Bedtime, buddy," Jack finally announced. "But Emily's here. And she'll still be here when you come say goodnight." Tommy trudged upstairs with the dramatic reluctance of a prisoner heading to execution. Emily could hear Jack's low voice reading a story. Tommy's interruptions to ask questions or correct details, then the quiet exchange of goodnights. When Jack came back downstairs, he found Emily looking at the photos again, particularly one of him in military uniform she hadn't noticed before. "Army," he said quietly. "Did 2 tours in Afghanistan before Tommy was born." "You never mentioned that." Didn't seem relevant. He moved to stand beside her, careful to maintain a respectful distance. "That was a different life. Before Sarah, before Tommy. Seems like it happened to someone else." "Is that where you learned to react so quickly?" At the airport, Jack considered the question. "Maybe, though I think becoming a father changes your reflexes more than combat training. You develop this constant awareness of danger, hot stoves, sharp corners, toys on stairs." "Bullets?" Emily added softly. "That was new," Jack admitted. "But the instinct was the same. Protect. Don't think, just protect." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment before Jack spoke again. "Can I ask you something? Why are you really here? I mean, I'm glad you are. Tommy's been talking about nothing else for days, but someone like you, this isn't your world." Emily turned to face him fully. "You're right, it's not, but maybe that's why I needed to come." She struggled to find the right words. "My whole life is boardrooms and contracts and people who smile while calculating what they can get from me. No one ever just is. But Tommy doesn't care that I run a company. You didn't care about my father's money. You both just treated me like a person." "You are a person," Jack said, as if it were obvious. "You'd be surprised how many people forget that. Or maybe they remember but don't care." She gestured around the small living room. "This is real. You and Tommy, this life you've built, it's genuine in a way nothing in my world is. It's not much. It's everything, Emily interrupted. Jack, you have no idea how rich you really are. He looked at her with those steady eyes that had faced down gunmen without flinching. I'm starting to figure that out. The moment stretched between them, charged with possibility, but before either could speak, Tommy's voice called from upstairs. Dad, I forgot to brush my teeth. Jack smiled ruefully. And back to reality. Excuse me. While he was gone, Emily's phone buzzed. Her father, as always. She looked at the message. Security says you're in Riverside. What are you thinking? She typed back. I'm thinking I'm exactly where I want to be. Then she turned off her phone entirely, something she hadn't done in years. When Jack returned, she was holding the taped-up board game box, examining Tommy's crayon repairs. We could get him a new one, she offered carefully. This game, I mean. Jack tensed slightly. We make do. I know, I'm not trying to... I just meant... She set the box down. I'm sorry, I'm not good at this. At what? Normal friendship. I keep wanting to solve problems with money because that's all I know how to do. Jack's expression softened. You're doing fine, and I appreciate the thought, really. It's just, I need Tommy to understand that we work for what we have, that things have value beyond their price tag. Like this game. Exactly. We've played it 100 times. Sarah played it with us. Those tape marks, that missing piece, they're memories. Emily felt that twist in her chest again, the one that seemed to happen whenever Jack mentioned his late wife. Not jealousy exactly, but something like it, an awareness of a love so profound it still shaped everything in this house. Tell me about her, Emily said. If you don't mind. Jack sat on the couch and Emily joined him, careful to maintain appropriate distance. Sarah was light, he said finally. She made everything better just by being there. Worked pediatric nursing, came home exhausted every day, but still had energy to dance with Tommy in the kitchen while dinner cooked. She laughed at my terrible jokes, sang off key in the shower, cried at dog food commercials. How did you meet? Would you believe a bar fight? Emily's eyebrows shot up. Really? Really? Some drunk was hassling one of her friends. I stepped in, got a black eye for my trouble, and she ended up taking me to the ER where she worked to make sure I didn't have a concussion. He smiled at the memory. Lectured me the whole time about toxic masculinity and conflict resolution, then asked me out for coffee. She sounds amazing. She was, and she would have liked you. You think, I know she always said I needed more friends who would challenge me, push me out of my comfort zone. Is that what I'm doing? Jack looked at her directly. Emily, you've got me so far out of my comfort zone I can't even see it anymore. Before she could respond, her phone rang. She'd turned it off, but apparently her father had overridden that, a feature she hadn't known existed. I'm sorry, she said, looking at the display. He's probably sending a SWAT team if I don't answer. Take it, Jack said. I'll check on Tommy. Emily stepped onto the front porch to answer. Dad, I turned my phone off for a reason. You're in a dangerous neighborhood without security. I'm in a perfectly safe neighborhood having dinner with a friend. The Turner man. His name is Jack, and yes. There was a pause. Emily, what are you doing? I honestly don't know, she admitted. But for the first time in maybe ever, I'm not thinking about it. I'm just being. That's not like you. Maybe it should be. Another pause, longer this time. Peterson is parked 3 houses down. He'll follow you home. Of course he is, Emily sighed. Good night, Dad. Emily, be careful. With Jack, Dad, he took a bullet for me. That's not what I meant. But he hung up before she could ask what he did mean. When she went back inside, Jack was on the couch, 2 cups of coffee on the table. Everything okay? My father being my father. She accepted the coffee gratefully. He has security watching your house. I'm sorry. I know. Noticed the car earlier. Doesn't it bother you? Jack shrugged. I get it. If someone hurt Tommy because of me, I'd never forgive myself. Your father feels the same about you. Most people would be angry about the invasion of privacy. I'm not most people. No, Emily agreed softly. You're definitely not. They drank their coffee in comfortable silence, the kind that didn't need filling. Emily couldn't remember the last time she'd experienced that usually silence meant someone was calculating their next move. Can I ask you something now? She said eventually. At the hospital, you said you chose to be the man Tommy thinks you are. What did you mean? Jack set down his cup, considering. Kids see things simply, good guys, bad guys, heroes, villains. Tommy thinks I'm a hero because I'm his dad. I fix his toys, scare away monsters, make his favorite breakfast on Saturdays. He doesn't know about the nights I lie awake worried about money or the times I've had to choose between new shoes for him or fixing the car. He just knows I'm there. But you are a hero. What you did at the airport was one moment. Being Tommy's dad is every moment. That's harder. He looked at her. Do you ever think about having kids? The question caught Emily off guard. No, I mean, my life doesn't really allow for it. Liv's change. Not mine. I have responsibilities, obligations. A company with thousands of employees depending on me. And Tommy has one person depending on me. Doesn't make your responsibility more important than mine or mine than yours. Just different. Emily studied him. You really believe that, don't you? That what you do matters as much as running a billion-dollar company. I believe raising a good human matters more than anything else anyone can do. My father would disagree. Your father never tucked Tommy in after a nightmare. Never saw his face on Christmas morning. Never watched him be kind to a kid who was sitting alone at lunch. Jack leaned forward slightly. Money's important. I won't pretend it's not. But it's not everything, says the man who refused a blank check from Richard Carter. Would you respect me if I'd taken it? The question hung between them. Emily realized with surprise that the answer was no. Jack's refusal of the money had been part of what drew her back here, what made him different from everyone else in her orbit. No, she admitted. I wouldn't. Then I made the right choice. Tommy appeared on the stairs in Spider-Man pajamas, rubbing his eyes. Daddy, I can't sleep. Bad dream? No, just thinking. About what, buddy? If Emily comes back, can we show her the park? The one with the good swings? Jack glanced at Emily. If she wants to come back. I want to, Emily said quickly. I'd love to see the park with the good swings. Tommy beamed. Tomorrow. Tommy, Emily has to work. Actually, Emily interrupted, tomorrow's Saturday. I could make time. Really? Tommy's eyes widened. Really? Okay, but now you really need to sleep, Jack said, scooping Tommy up with his good arm. Say goodnight to Emily. Good night, Emily. Thank you for coming to dinner. Thank you for inviting me. As Jack carried him upstairs, Emily heard Tommy whisper, I like her, Daddy. Yeah, buddy, me too. Emily pretended she hadn't heard, but warmth spread through her chest anyway. When Jack returned, Emily stood. I should go. It's getting late. I'll walk you out. On the porch, the spring evening had turned cool. The security car was indeed visible down the street, a black SUV that screamed expensive surveillance. I'm sorry about that, Emily said, gesturing toward the car. Stop apologizing for caring about your safety. I'm more sorry that it intrudes on your life. Jack stepped closer, still maintaining respectful distance, but close enough that she could smell his cologne, something simple and clean, probably from a drugstore. Emily, you could have sent a check and disappeared. Could have had your people handle everything, made sure I never bothered you again. Instead, you're here playing board games with my kid and pretending my burnt garlic bread is edible. The garlic bread was fine. It was terrible, and you know it. He smiled. My point is you're here. That matters more than any intrusion. Jack, she didn't know what she wanted to say, only that something needed saying. The park tomorrow, he said, saving her from finding words. There's a farmer's market in the morning. Tommy loves looking at all the vegetables he won't eat. What time? 9? Unless that's too early. 9 is perfect. They stood there, neither moving to leave nor moving closer, suspended in possibility. Emily, Jack said finally, I need you to know something. It's been 4 years since Sarah and I haven't even thought about. This is new for me. For me too, Emily admitted. Different reasons, but just as new. Okay, as long as we're both confused. She laughed, surprised. That's oddly comforting. The drive home Peterson insisted on driving her, leaving her car to be retrieved later, gave Emily too much time to think. What was she doing? Her life and Jack's were completely incompatible. She worked 80-hour weeks, flew to different countries at a moment's notice, attended galas and charity events that cost more per plate than Jack made in a month. He worked shifts, raised a son, lived in a world of school plays and bedtime stories and taped up board games. Her phone had 17 missed calls, all from various board members and executives who needed decisions, approvals, interventions. The real world waiting to reclaim her. But then she thought about Tommy's pure joy when she'd agreed to come to the park, about Jack's quiet strength, about the simple pleasure of spaghetti dinner and bad garlic bread. About feeling for 3 hours like just Emily instead of Emily Carter, heir to an empire. She made a decision. Pulling out her phone, she sent a message to her assistant. Clear my calendar for tomorrow, all day, no exceptions. The response was immediate. Is everything all right? Should I alert security? Everything's fine, just taking a personal day. There was a pause before the next message. You don't take personal days. I do now. The next morning dawned bright and clear. Emily had agonized over what to wear again, finally settling on jeans and a t-shirt that had cost more than most people's entire outfit, but looked appropriately casual. She drove herself, ignoring Peterson's protests, though she knew he'd follow at a discreet distance. The park was a revelation. Not because it was particularly beautiful, the playground equipment had seen better days and the grass was patchy in places, but because of how Jack and Tommy existed in it. They were clearly regulars. The woman running the fruit stand knew Tommy by name and snuck him an extra apple. The old man feeding pigeons by the pond called out a greeting. The other parents at the playground nodded familiarly to Jack. This is our world, Jack said quietly to Emily as Tommy ran ahead to the swings. Not very glamorous. It's perfect, Emily said, and meant it. She pushed Tommy on the swings until her arms ached. Listened to him explain the complex social dynamics of first grade, helped him pick out tomatoes at the farmer's market that they all knew he wouldn't eat. She watched Jack negotiate Tommy's request for ice cream before lunch, with patient diplomacy. Watched him apply a Band-Aid to a scraped knee with practiced gentleness. Watched him be a father with such natural grace it took her breath away. You're good at this, she told him while Tommy was distracted by a juggler. It's just practice. No, it's more than that. Some people are meant to be parents. You're one of them. Jack looked at her with an expression she couldn't read. What about you? What are you meant to be? It was a question Emily had never asked herself. She'd always known what was expected of her to run the company, to uphold the family legacy, to be successful and powerful and untouchable. But meant to be, I don't know, she admitted. I've never thought about it. Maybe you should. Before she could respond, Tommy came running back. Did you see he juggled 5 balls at once? That's more than 4. That's definitely more than 4, Emily agreed seriously. Can you juggle? No, but I can do this. She quickly folded a dollar bill into an origami crane, a skill learned during boring board meetings. Tommy's eyes went wide. Magic. Not magic, just practice. Want to learn. They spent the next hour sitting on a bench, Emily teaching Tommy to fold paper into various shapes. Jack watched with that soft smile she was beginning to recognize, the one that appeared when Tommy was particularly engaged in something. You're good with him, Jack said quietly. He's easy to be good with. Not everyone thinks so. His teacher says he asks too many questions. Then his teacher is wrong. Questions are how we learn. Jack studied her. You really mean that? Of course I do. The day we stop asking questions is the day we stop growing. Tommy looked up from his crooked paper crane. Is that why you're so smart, because you ask questions? That's exactly why. Then I'm going to ask a million questions and be smart like you. I think you're already pretty smart, Emily said. Dad says I get it from Mom. She was really smart. She was going to be a doctor before she went to heaven. That twist in Emily's chest again stronger this time. I'm sure she was. Do you think she can see us from heaven? Emily glanced at Jack, unsure how to answer, but he nodded slightly. I think the people who love us always see us, Emily said carefully, even when they're not here. Tommy seemed satisfied with this answer, returning to his origami, but Jack was looking at Emily with something like wonder. What? She asked softly. Nothing. Just, that was perfect. The day slipped by too quickly. Lunch at a food truck, the best tacos Emily had ever had, despite, or perhaps because of their humble origin. An afternoon at the playground where Emily learned the hard way that she was not as adept at monkey bars as she'd been at 8. A stop for ice cream where Tommy very seriously explained the superiority of chocolate chip over all other flavors. As the sun began to sink lower, Tommy started to flag, his energy finally depleting. Someone needs a nap, Jack said. I'm not tired. Tommy protested, then yawned hugely. Come on, warrior. Let's get you home. Tommy reached for Emily's hand as they walked back to their cars. Will you come back tomorrow? Emily has work, Jack started. Actually, Emily said, I cleared my whole weekend. Jack stopped walking. You did? I did. But your company will survive 2 days without me. They might even make better decisions without me hovering. Tommy tugged on her hand. So you'll come back? If your dad says it's okay. Dad say it's okay. Jack looked at Emily over Tommy's head and she saw him making a decision. Sunday's grocery day. Not very exciting. I've never been grocery shopping, Emily admitted. Both Turners stared at her. Never, Tommy asked, incredulous. Never. We had people who did that. Then you have to come, Tommy declared. Dad, she's never been grocery shopping. Well, when you put it like that, how can we deny her this crucial life experience? Emily laughed. It's a date. I mean, not a date, an appointment. An experience. Jack smiled at her flustered correction. It's whatever you want it to be. As they reached their cars, Tommy already half asleep in Jack's arms. Emily felt the weekend stretching ahead of her, full of possibility. Her phone buzzed with messages, crises that weren't really crises, decisions that others could make, a world that would keep spinning without her constant attention. She ignored them all. Thank you, she said to Jack. For today. For letting me into your world. Thank you for wanting to be in it, he replied. As she drove away, watching in her rearview mirror as Jack buckled a sleepy Tommy into his car seat, with infinite patience, Emily realized something had shifted. She wasn't just visiting their world anymore, she was becoming part of it. Sunday morning arrived with rain pattering against Emily's bedroom window, the kind of steady drizzle that Chicago did so well in spring. She lay in her king-size bed, staring at the ceiling of her penthouse apartment, thinking about how different this morning felt from all the others. Usually, she'd already be at her laptop reviewing international markets that opened while America slept. Instead, she was thinking about a 6-year-old's excitement over showing her how to properly select bananas at the grocery store. Her phone rang at 7:30, her father predictably. You missed the Harrison Foundation Gala last night, Richard said without preamble. I sent my regrets and a sizable donation. That's not the point. These events are about presents, Emily, showing the flag. I was busy. With the Turner man again. It wasn't a question. Emily sat up, irritation flaring. His name is Jack. And yes, I spent yesterday at a farmer's market and a playground, and it was more genuine than 100 galas. Emily, I understand gratitude, but this is becoming something else. What if it is? The silence on the other end was deafening. Finally, Richard spoke, his voice carefully controlled. He's a baggage handler. He's a good man. I'm not questioning his character. But Emily, you have to be realistic. Your lives are completely incompatible. Maybe that's what makes it work, Emily said, though she wasn't sure she believed it herself. Just be careful. Both of you could get hurt here. After hanging up, Emily stood at her floor-to-ceiling windows looking out at the city below. Her apartment was on the 40th floor, high enough that the people on the streets looked like ants. She'd chosen it for the view, for the separation from the messiness of regular life. Now that separation felt more like isolation. Her phone buzzed with the text from Jack. Tommy's been up since 6, asking if it's time to go get you yet. Fair warning, he's made a list of everything he wants to show you at the store. The image of Tommy carefully writing out a list in his little boy handwriting made her smile. She texted back, "Tell him I'm on my way, and that I'm ready to learn from the expert." An hour later, she pulled up to Jack's house, noting Peterson's SUV already stationed down the block. The rain had softened to a mist, giving everything a soft, dreamlike quality. Tommy burst out the front door before she'd even turned off the engine. "Emily, you came, even though it's raining. Rain doesn't scare me," she said, catching him as he launched himself at her legs. "Dad says we need umbrellas, but I like the rain. It makes everything smell different." Jack appeared in the doorway looking apologetic. Tommy let Emily get inside at least. But Emily was charmed by the boy's enthusiasm. "I like the rain too," she told Tommy. "In my apartment, I can watch it race down the windows." "You live in an apartment. I thought all rich people lived in big houses." "Tommy," Jack warned. "It's okay," Emily said. "I do live in an apartment, but it's high up in the sky. Sometimes I'm actually inside the clouds." Tommy's eyes went impossibly wide, like a castle in the sky. "Something like that. Can I see it sometime?" Emily glanced at Jack, who was watching the interaction with an unreadable expression. "Maybe someday." The grocery store was a 15-minute drive during which Tommy provided detailed commentary on every aspect of their shopping routine. They always parked in the same area. Because Dad likes to remember where the car is, always got the cart with the squeaky wheel. "It's tradition," Jack explained with a shrug, and always started in produce. "Because if we start with ice cream, it melts," Tommy said seriously. Watching Jack and Tommy navigate the store was like watching a well-choreographed dance. Tommy knew exactly which coupons to pull from the little organizer Jack carried. Jack knew exactly how many times Tommy would ask for sugary cereal before accepting defeat, and both of them had strong opinions about the proper ripeness of avocados. "You have to feel it," Tommy explained to Emily, handing her an avocado. "Not too hard, not too soft." "Like this?" Emily asked, gently squeezing the fruit. "Perfect. You're a natural." Jack smiled at her over Tommy's head. "High praise. It took me months to achieve avocado selection approval." They made their way through the aisles, Tommy treating each section like a new adventure to share with Emily. She learned the proper way to test cantaloupe. Smell the end. If it smells sweet, it's ready. The economics of buying generic versus name brand. Sometimes the same, sometimes different, Dad always knows which. And the social dynamics of the cereal aisle. The good stuff is always on the top shelf so kids can't reach it. "Your dad's pretty smart about all this," Emily said, watching Jack compare unit prices on pasta sauce. "He has to be," Tommy said matter-of-factly. "He takes care of everything." The simple statement hit Emily unexpectedly hard. She thought of her own father, who'd certainly provided everything money could buy, but had never once taken her grocery shopping, never taught her to select produce or compare prices. There'd always been staff for that. "Hey," Jack said softly, appearing at her elbow. "You okay?" "Yeah, just learning a lot." He studied her for a moment, then seemed to understand. "Tommy, why don't you go pick out the bread? You know which one we get." Tommy scampered off and Jack turned to Emily. "It's different from your world, isn't it?" "Everything about this is different from my world, but not in a bad way." She gestured around the store. "This is real. You're teaching him life skills values. My father taught me leveraged buyouts and hostile takeovers. Both are important in their own way. Are they, though? I can negotiate $1 million deal, but I didn't know how to pick out an avocado until a 6-year-old taught me." Jack was quiet for a moment. "You know what Sarah used to say, that the most important things in life are usually the simplest. Knowing how to feed your family, how to make a home, how to be present for the people you love. Everything else is just noise." She sounds wise. She was. She would have been better at this single-parent thing than me. I don't know," Emily said, watching Tommy carefully comparing bread loaves with serious concentration. "You're doing pretty amazing." Their eyes met and held for a moment, something unspoken passing between them. Then Tommy came running back with a loaf of whole wheat bread, and the moment passed. At the checkout, Emily watched Jack carefully count coupons and calculate the total in his head. When Tommy wandered over to look at the candy display, she leaned closer to Jack. "Let me." "No," he said firmly, but not unkindly. "Jack, please, it's groceries." "It's my family's groceries. Emily, I know you mean well, but I need to do this myself. It's important." She wanted to argue, to point out how easy it would be for her to help, but something in his expression stopped her. This was about more than pride. It was about maintaining his independence, his role as provider for his son. "Okay," she said. "I understand." He relaxed slightly. "Thank you." The rain had stopped by the time they loaded the groceries into Jack's car, and Tommy immediately lobbied for a trip to the park. "Everything's wet, buddy," Jack pointed out. "That's the best time no one else is there, and the slides are super fast when they're wet." Jack looked at Emily. "You up for it?" "Fair warning, you'll probably end up muddy." "I can handle a little mud." Tommy cheered, and 20 minutes later, Emily found herself at the same park as yesterday, but transformed by the rain. The playground glistened puddles reflected the cloudy sky, and they had the entire place to themselves. True to Tommy's prediction, the wet slides were indeed faster, something Emily discovered when she tried the big spiral slide and shot off the end, landing in a puddle with a splash that soaked her jeans. Tommy laughed so hard he fell over, and even Jack couldn't hide his grin. "Very graceful," he said, offering her a hand up. "I meant to do that," Emily said with as much dignity as she could muster while dripping. "Of course you did." His hand was warm and calloused, and he held hers perhaps a moment longer than necessary after pulling her up. Emily found herself standing close enough to see the flecks of gold in his brown eyes, close enough to smell that simple cologne mixed with rain. "Dad, Emily, look what I found." Tommy's voice broke the moment. He was holding up a particularly impressive stick. "It's a sword." The next hour became an elaborate adventure involving dragons played by Jack, a brave knight, Tommy, and a princess who, as Emily firmly established, could rescue herself, thank you very much, but appreciated the backup. They ran through puddles, staged epic battles with stick swords, and built a fort from wet playground equipment. Emily couldn't remember the last time she'd played like this, if she ever had. Her childhood had been structured piano lessons. Language tutors carefully supervised playdates with the children of other wealthy families. Nothing like this glorious muddy chaos. "You're different here," Jack said, watching her help Tommy balance on a low wall. "Different how? Lighter, like you've put down something heavy." "Maybe I have," Emily said, catching Tommy as he jumped off the wall. "My whole life is performance, Jack. Board meetings, galas, always being on, always being Emily Carter, CEO. Here I can just be Emily." "I like just Emily," Tommy announced. "She's fun." "Just Emily likes you too," she said, ruffling his damp hair. Jack's phone rang. He frowned at the display of the hospital. "Mr. Turner." "This is Dr. Hernandez. I'm calling about your follow-up appointment tomorrow." "Is everything okay?" "Yes, everything's fine. I just wanted to remind you about the MRI we scheduled. Your insurance has approved it, which is good news." Emily watched Jack's expression tighten slightly. She knew enough about insurance to know that approval didn't mean free. "Right. Thank you, doctor. I'll be there." He hung up and found Emily watching him with concern. "Everything okay?" "Fine. Just follow-up stuff." "Jack." "It's handled, Emily." But she saw the worry in his eyes, the mental calculations he was already doing. An MRI, even with insurance, would have significant out-of-pocket costs. She wanted to help, wanted to make this particular problem disappear, but she knew he'd refuse. "Come on, buddy," Jack said to Tommy. "We should get home and put those groceries away." "But we're having so much fun." "We can have fun at home too. Besides, Emily's all wet. She probably wants to change." "Actually," Emily said, making a decision, "why don't you guys come to my place? I can change. You can see the apartment in the clouds and I'll make lunch." Tommy's excitement was immediate. "Can we, Dad? Please?" Jack hesitated. Emily understood her apartment was another world, one that would make the economic gap between them impossible to ignore. But Tommy was practically vibrating with excitement. "Okay, and good." Jack said finally. But we can't stay long. The drive to Emily's building took them from Jack's working-class neighborhood through increasingly upscale areas until they reached the glass and steel tower that housed her penthouse. The doorman's eyes widened, seeing Emily arrive muddy and disheveled with an equally muddy man and child, but he said nothing beyond his usual, "Good afternoon, Ms. Carter." The private elevator to the penthouse left Tommy speechless for possibly the first time in his life. He pressed his nose against the glass, watching the city shrink below them. "We're so high," he whispered. "Wait until you see the view from upstairs," Emily said. The elevator opened directly into her apartment, and both Turners stopped in their tracks. The space was enormous, all clean lines and modern furniture with floor-to-ceiling windows, offering a panoramic view of Chicago. The rain had started again, and clouds actually drifted past the windows. "It really is in the clouds," Tommy breathed. "Sometimes above them," Emily said suddenly, seeing her sterile apartment through their eyes. It was beautiful, but cold like a magazine spread rather than a home. Tommy walked slowly to the windows, placing his small hands against the glass. "Dad, look. The people are tiny." Jack joined his son, and Emily watched them silhouetted against her million-dollar view, the two people who'd somehow become more important to her than any deal or merger. "This is where you live?" Jack asked quietly. "Where I sleep," Emily corrected. "I'm not sure I've ever really lived here." He looked at her, understanding in his eyes. "It's beautiful, but lonely," she finished. "Yes." Tommy had discovered the telescope she kept by the window. "Can I look?" "Of course. On clear nights, you can see stars despite the city lights." While Tommy explored, Emily changed into dry clothes and threw together a simple lunch, sandwiches, and soup. Nothing fancy, but Tommy acted like it was a feast. "Your soup is different from Dad's," he announced. "Better or worse?" Emily asked. Tommy considered carefully. "Different. Dad's is home soup, yours is fancy soup." "Home soup sounds better," Emily said, and meant it. After lunch, Tommy dozed off on the massive couch, exhausted from the morning's adventures. Emily covered him with a throw blanket that probably cost more than Jack's monthly grocery bill, a thought that made her wince. She and Jack stood by the windows, watching the rain streak the glass. The city below was muted, dreamlike. "This is quite a place," Jack said. "It's too much," Emily said. "I see that now. One person doesn't need all this space. But it's what you're used to. Maybe it's time to get used to something different." She turned to look at him. "Jack, these past few weeks, I haven't felt this real in years. Maybe ever." "Emily," there was warning in his voice, but also longing. I know it's complicated." "It's more than complicated. It's impossible. You have a company to run a life that takes you all over the world. I have Tommy, a job that barely pays the bills, responsibilities I can't walk away from." "What if we didn't have to walk away from anything? What if we could find a way to make it work?" Jack was quiet for a long moment, watching the rain. "Sarah used to say that love isn't about finding someone who fits perfectly into your life. It's about finding someone worth rearranging your life for." Emily's heart skipped. "Is that what this is, love?" He turned to look at her fully. "I don't know. But it's something. Something I haven't felt in 4 years. Something I didn't think I'd feel again." "I've never felt it," Emily admitted. "Not like this. I've had relationships, but they were always transactions arrangements. This is different," Jack finished. "Terrifying," Emily corrected, and they both smiled. "That too." They stood there inches apart, the tension between them electric. Emily could see Jack struggling with himself, wanting to close the distance, but held back by something propriety circumstance, the ghost of his wife, or maybe all three. "Dad?" Tommy's sleepy voice broke the moment. "Is it time to go home?" "Yeah, buddy, we should go." As they gathered their things, Tommy hugged Emily tight. "Thank you for showing us your cloud castle. Thank you for sharing your weekend with me. Will we see you again soon?" Emily looked at Jack, who was watching her with that unreadable expression. "I hope so." In the elevator down, Tommy leaned against his father, still drowsy. "I like Emily, Dad." "I know you do." "Do you like her?" Jack's eyes met Emily's over his son's head. "Yeah, buddy, I do. After they left, Emily stood in her too large apartment, feeling the emptiness more acutely than ever. The space that had once felt like a sanctuary now felt like a prison, beautiful, but isolating, impressive, but not a home. Her phone rang. Her father again. "The Castellani situation has been resolved," he said without preamble. "The FBI has enough to put him away for a long time. You're safe." "That's good," Emily said, though safety felt like a relative concept now. She was safe from bullets, but not from the way Jack looked at her. Not from Tommy's innocent affection. Not from the growing realization that her perfectly controlled life was missing something essential. "Emily, I had Peterson run a deeper background check on Turner." "Dad, no. He's clean. Decorated veteran, spotless record, good credit despite the circumstances. The only mark against him is a speeding ticket from rushing to the hospital when his wife was in the accident." Emily felt tears prick her eyes. Of course he'd been speeding to get to Sarah. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you're my daughter, and despite what you might think, I want you to be happy. If this man makes you happy, just be careful. Both of you have a lot to lose." After hanging up, Emily walked to her home office, intending to review the contracts that had piled up over the weekend. But instead, she found herself looking at the photo someone had snapped at the park yesterday. Her phone had been buzzing with texts from friends who'd seen it on social media. In it, she was pushing Tommy on the swing while Jack watched all three of them laughing. She looked happy, genuinely, unreservedly happy. Her laptop chimed with an email marked urgent. The Singapore deal needed her attention. There were contracts to review, calls to make a whole corporate machine waiting for her to oil its wheels. But for the first time in her professional life, Emily Carter closed her laptop without reading the email. Some things were more important than deals. Monday morning brought reality crashing back. Emily's alarm went off at 5 a.m. as usual, and she was in her office by 6 trying to catch up on the weekend's accumulated work. But her mind kept drifting to Tommy's laugh, to the feeling of Jack's hand in hers, to the simple pleasure of selecting avocados. "You look different," her assistant Margaret said when she brought in Emily's coffee. "Different how?" "Happy. It's unsettling." Emily laughed. "I'll try to be more miserable." "Please don't. It's actually nice. The Singapore team is on line 1, by the way." The morning flew by in a blur of conferences and decisions, but at lunch Emily found herself calling the hospital. "I'd like to pay for a patient's MRI," she said, anonymously. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but without the patient's consent." What if someone just happened to make a donation that exactly covered the cost of one MRI? There was a pause. "That would be a very specific donation." "I'm a very specific person." She could hear the smile in the administrator's voice. "I'm sure we could arrange that." Emily had just finished arranging the donation when her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, but the message made her blood run cold. "You think you're safe?" Castellani was just the beginning. She immediately called Peterson, who had the FBI at her office, within minutes. Director Mitchell looked grim as she examined the message. "We'll trace this, but if someone's still targeting you—" "I need to warn Jack," Emily said immediately. "If they're after me, they might—" "We'll put protection on them," Mitchell assured her, discreetly. But Emily couldn't shake the fear that had settled in her stomach. She'd brought danger into Jack and Tommy's life just by existing in it. How could she justify continuing to see them if it put them at risk? Her phone rang. "Jack." "Hey," he said, and just his voice helped calm her racing heart. "I wanted to thank you for yesterday. Tommy hasn't stopped talking about your cloud castle." "Jack, I need to tell you something." "Actually, I called to tell you something. The hospital just called. Apparently there was some kind of billing error with my MRI. It's fully covered now." Emily closed her eyes. "That's wonderful." "Emily, did you—" "I have to go," she said quickly. "I have a meeting. I'm glad about the MRI." She hung up before he could respond, hating herself for the lie, but not knowing how else to handle it. How could she tell him about the threat? How could she drag him further into her dangerous world? But Jack Turner wasn't easily discouraged. An hour later, he was in her office lobby, having somehow talked his way past security. "We need to talk," he said when Margaret showed him in. "Jack, you can't be here. It's not safe." "I know about the threat. The FBI agents aren't as discreet as they think. Now, are you going to tell me what's going on, or are you going to keep trying to protect me like I'm made of glass?" Emily looked at him standing in her office in his work clothes, jaw set with determination, and felt something in her chest crack open. Someone sent a threatening message. The FBI thinks there might be others involved in the attempt on my life. And your instinct was to push me away. My instinct was to protect you and Tommy. That's not your call to make alone. Jack stepped closer. Emily, I knew who you were when I jumped in front of that bullet. I knew the risks, and I know them now. This is different. You have Tommy to think about. I am thinking about him. I'm thinking about the fact that for the first time since his mother died, he's excited about something, someone. I'm thinking about how he asked me this morning if you could come to his school play next week. Jack, I'm thinking, he continued, moving closer still, about how I've spent 4 years just existing, just getting through each day, and then you crashed into my life, and suddenly I remember what it feels like to want something for myself. They were standing very close now, close enough that Emily could see the determination in his eyes, the slight tremble in his hands that betrayed his nerves. This is dangerous, she whispered. Everything worth doing is. My father's right. Our lives are incompatible. Maybe, or maybe we're exactly what each other needs. Emily felt tears threatening. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to be part of something simple and good. Then learn, the same way you learned to pick avocados. His hand came up to cup her cheek thumb, brushing away a tear she hadn't realized had fallen. Emily, I'm not asking you to change your whole life. I'm just asking you to let us be part of it. What if I get you hurt? What if something happens because of me? What if something wonderful happens because of you? It already has. Emily looked into his eyes and saw not just attraction or gratitude, but something deeper, a recognition, a coming home she'd never experienced before. Tommy has a school play next week, she asked. A smile broke across Jack's face. Thursday night, he's playing a tree. A tree? It's a very important tree, but it has 3 whole lines. Despite everything, Emily laughed. I wouldn't miss it. Good, because I already told him you'd be there. Pretty confident, weren't you? Hopeful, Jack corrected. Sarah always said the difference between confidence and hope is that hope leaves room for miracles. This time when he leaned in, Emily didn't think about threats or incompatibility or the impossibility of it all. She just let herself be kissed by a man who'd taken a bullet for her, who was raising a beautiful boy with patient love, who made her feel real in a way nothing in her gleaming tower life ever had. The kiss was gentle, tentative, a question more than a statement. When they pulled apart, Emily saw her own wonder reflected in Jack's eyes. This is going to be complicated, she said. The best things usually are. Margaret's voice came over the intercom. Ms. Carter, your 2 o'clock is here. Reality intruding again, but for once Emily didn't mind. I have to work, she said apologetically. I know, so do I. My shift starts in an hour. Jack stepped back, but his hand found hers for a moment. But Thursday. The play. I'll be there. And maybe dinner after Tommy will be on a performance high. He'll want to celebrate. I know just the place for pizza. Jack smiled. Actually, I was thinking maybe you could teach us to make that fancy soup. It's just soup from a can with extra vegetables. See, you're already learning that the simple things are sometimes the best. After he left, Emily stood in her office looking out at the city below. Her phone was buzzing with messages, deals needing attention, the machine of her corporate life demanding to be fed. But she was thinking about a little boy who needed 3 whole lines as a tree, about a man who saw through her armor to the person beneath, about the possibility that maybe, just maybe, 2 incompatible lives could find a way to fit together. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was a photo from Jack Tommy practicing his tree pose in their living room, arms spread wide like branches, grinning at the camera. Emily saved the photo and got back to work, but she was smiling. Thursday couldn't come fast enough. Thursday arrived with the kind of perfect spring evening that Chicago rarely provided, warm enough to forget winter, but cool enough to hint at the summer still to come. Emily stood in her bedroom holding up 2 different outfits and feeling ridiculous. She'd negotiated billion-dollar deals without breaking a sweat, but choosing what to wear to a first-grade play had her second-guessing everything. Margaret knocked on her door. The car's ready whenever you are. I'm driving myself, Emily said finally, settling on simple slacks and a soft sweater. Nice, but not ostentatious. To Riverside at night. It's 6 p.m., Margaret, not midnight, and yes to Riverside. Margaret studied her for a moment. You know, in the 5 years I've worked for you, I've never seen you this nervous about anything. I'm not nervous. You've changed outfits 3 times. I've been counting through the glass. Emily sighed. It's a school play. I've never been to a school play. What if I do something wrong? What if I clap at the wrong time or sit in the wrong place? Or what if you just go and enjoy watching a 6-year-old be a tree? Margaret's expression softened. Emily, you're allowed to have a life outside these walls. Am I? Sometimes I'm not sure I know how. Then maybe it's time to learn. The drive to Tommy's school took her through rush hour traffic, but Emily didn't mind. It gave her time to think, to acknowledge the flutter in her stomach that had nothing to do with FBI threats and everything to do with seeing Jack again. They'd texted throughout the week simple things: Tommy's excitement about the play, a photo of a particularly perfect avocado Jack had found at the store, small windows into each other's daily lives that felt more intimate than any corporate merger. The school parking lot was already crowded when she arrived. Parents with cameras, grandparents with flowers, siblings looking bored but present. Emily felt out of place until she spotted Jack standing by the entrance scanning the crowd. His face lit up when he saw her, and suddenly she didn't feel out of place at all. You made it, he said, reaching for her hand as naturally as breathing. I promised. How's our tree doing? Nervous? Excited. He changed his costume 3 times, so apparently it runs in the family. Emily laughed. I may have done the same thing. You look perfect, Jack said simply, and Emily felt warmth spread through her chest. Inside the auditorium was controlled chaos. Parents jockeyed for optimal viewing positions, while teachers tried to maintain order. Jack led her to seats he'd saved near the front, marked with his jacket. Maria's coming, but running late, he explained. Tommy made me promise to save her a seat, too. He's lucky to have family who shows up. Jack looked at her curiously. Did your parents come to your school plays? I didn't have school plays. I had private tutors and carefully orchestrated recitals, where my parents would appear for exactly the duration of my performance, then leave for whatever business engagement was more important. That's lonely, Emily finished. It was lonely, but I didn't know any different then. Jack squeezed her hand. You know different now. The lights dimmed before she could respond, and a teacher stepped onto the stage to welcome everyone. Emily found herself leaning forward unexpectedly, invested in this amateur production of The Garden of Seasons. Tommy appeared in the second scene dressed in brown pants and a shirt covered in paper leaves, his arms already spread wide in tree position. He was clearly scanning the audience, and when he spotted them, his whole face transformed with joy. He started to wave, remembered he was a tree, and froze again, but not before shooting them a grin that made Emily's heart melt. He's perfect, she whispered to Jack. He's trying so hard not to move, Jack whispered back, pride evident in his voice. He practiced standing still all week. Tommy's first line came 10 minutes into the play, I grow tall in spring. He delivered it with such enthusiasm that several parents chuckled. Emily found herself gripping Jack's hand, ridiculously proud of a boy she'd known for only a few weeks. His second line, Summer Makes My Leaves Green, was accompanied by an unauthorized leaf wiggle that made Jack stifle a laugh. But it was the third line that got everyone. Tommy was supposed to say, In fall my leaves turn gold, but what came out was, In fall my leaves turn gold just like Emily's hair. The audience laughed. The other children giggled, and Tommy turned bright red, realizing his mistake. Emily felt her own cheeks burn, but she was smiling so hard her face hurt. I'm sorry, Jack whispered, but he was clearly trying not to laugh. Don't be. It's the nicest thing anyone said about my hair in years. The play continued with Tommy maintaining his tree position with renewed determination despite his ad-lib. When the curtain finally fell and the children took their bows, Tommy's eyes immediately found them in the audience. Emily stood with everyone else applauding enthusiastically, and Tommy's beam could have powered the entire school. After the play, the cafeteria had been transformed into a reception area with cookies and punch. Tommy raced over to them, still in his tree costume, leaves shedding with every step. Did you see me? Did you hear my lines? I said them all. Well, mostly all. I added something, but Ms. Peterson said it was okay because it was from my heart, and art comes from the heart. You were amazing, Emily said, kneeling down to his level. The best tree I've ever seen. Really? Really. And I like what you added about my hair. Tommy threw his arms around her neck, and Emily felt something fundamental shift inside her chest. This was what she'd been missing, not just love, but this specific kind of innocent, enthusiastic affection that expected nothing except affection in return. There's my star. Maria arrived slightly out of breath. Sorry, traffic was horrible. Did I miss it? Aunt Maria, I was a tree. A really good tree. I bet you were the best tree ever. As Tommy recounted his performance to his aunt, a woman approached them. Tommy's teacher, Ms. Peterson. Mr. Turner, could I speak with you for a moment? Emily watched Jack's expression immediately shift to concern, the look of a parent used to anticipating problems. Tommy's been doing wonderfully, Ms. Peterson quickly assured him. Actually, that's what I wanted to talk about. He's been so much happier these past few weeks, more engaged, more social. He talks nonstop about Emily. She turned to Emily with a warm smile. You must be her. Tommy's told the entire class about his dad's special friend who lives in the clouds. That's me, Emily said, charmed by the description. Whatever you're doing, keep it up. It's wonderful to see him so animated. As Ms. Peterson walked away, Jack turned to Emily. You heard that you're making a difference in his life. He's making a difference in mine, Emily replied, watching Tommy demonstrate his tree pose to a group of other children. Emily. Tommy ran back over. Can we get pizza now? I'm starving. Being a tree is hard work. Actually, Emily said, I thought maybe we could go to my place and make homemade pizza. I have all the ingredients. Tommy's eyes widened. Make pizza like from scratch, man. From scratch. You can even toss the dough if your dad helps. Can we, Dad? Please. Jack looked at Emily. You sure that's a lot of work? I'm sure. I even got a step stool so Tommy can reach the counter. You bought a step stool. I bought a step stool. Something in Jack's expression softened. You bought a step stool, he repeated quietly, as if this simple purchase meant something profound. Maria begged off, citing early work the next morning, but promised Tommy she'd take him for ice cream on the weekend to celebrate his theatrical triumph. As they drove toward Emily's apartment, Jack and Tommy following in their car, Emily realized she was nervous again, but for different reasons. She'd made changes to her apartment, small ones, but changes nonetheless. Would Jack notice? Would he understand what they meant? When they arrived at her building, the doorman greeted Tommy by name. Good evening, Mr. Tommy. I heard you were excellent in your play. Tommy's mouth fell open. You know about my play. Ms. Carter may have mentioned it, the doorman said with a wink. In the elevator, Tommy was slightly less awed by the height, more interested in telling Emily about every detail of the play from his perspective on stage. Bradley forgot his line completely, and Sophia's flower crown fell off. But I remembered all my lines, well, except for the adding part. When the elevator opened into the penthouse, Emily watched Jack's face as he took in the changes. The austere modern furniture had been softened with colorful throws and pillows. Children's books were stacked on the coffee table. A box of toys sat discreetly in the corner. And on the refrigerator, a refrigerator that had never held anything but takeout menus, was Tommy's drawing from the hospital, held up with alphabet magnets. Emily, Jack said softly. I wanted it to feel more welcoming, she said, suddenly self-conscious. More like home. You put my picture up. Tommy had discovered his artwork. Just like at our house. Of course I did. It's beautiful. The pizza making was an adventure. Tommy was determined to toss the dough like he'd seen on TV, which resulted in flour everywhere, and dough that was decidedly not round. But he was so proud of his creation that neither adult had the heart to reshape it. It's artistic, Jack said, looking at the vaguely amoeba-shaped pizza. It's perfect, Emily corrected, adding toppings to Tommy's specifications: extra cheese pepperoni in the shape of a smiley face and olives for eyes. While the pizza cooked, Tommy explored the apartment with Emily's permission, fascinated by everything from the telescope to the sound system to the rain shower in the guest bathroom that he declared was like being in a car wash. "He's having the time of his life," Jack said, standing with Emily by the windows, watching the sun set over the city. "So am I," Emily admitted. "I've never had anyone make pizza in this kitchen. I've never had a child's laughter in this apartment. It feels alive. You're good with him, natural. He makes it easy. He's so open, so genuinely himself." She paused. "Like his father." Jack turned to look at her. "Emily, I need to tell you something." Her heart rate spiked, preparing for bad news, but Jack took her hands, his expression serious but warm. "I've been thinking all week about how this could work, and I realized I've been looking at it wrong. I kept thinking about all the reasons it shouldn't work instead of focusing on the reasons it does." "What reasons?" Emily asked softly. "You make Tommy laugh. You treat him like a person, not a kid to be patronized. You bought a step stool for your $1 million apartment so he could help cook. You saved his drawing like it was precious art." "It is precious art. See that? That right there." Jack pulled her closer. "You see value in things other people overlook. You saw value in us." "Jack, I'm falling in love with you, Emily." The words hung in the air between them, monumental and fragile. Emily felt tears prick her eyes. "I don't know how to be in love," she whispered. "I don't know how to balance this with everything else. I don't know how to be what you and Tommy need. You already are, just by being yourself. Not the CEO, not the billionaire's daughter, just Emily who gets excited about perfect avocados and laughs at Tommy's jokes and makes fancy soup that's really just from a can." "Dad? Emily? The pizza's making beeping noises." The smoke alarm's chirp sent them racing to the kitchen where the slightly charred edges of Tommy's artistic pizza were starting to smoke. Jack quickly pulled it from the oven while Emily opened windows, and Tommy fanned the air with a dish towel, all three of them laughing. "It's not burnt," Tommy declared. "It's extra crispy." They ate the oddly shaped, slightly charred pizza on the living room floor, Tommy having declared it a carpet picnic, and Emily couldn't remember a meal ever tasting better. Tommy regaled them with more backstage stories from the play, demonstrated everyone else's parts, and gradually wound down like a clock losing its spring. "Someone's crashing," Jack observed as Tommy's stories became less coherent. "I'm not tired," Tommy mumbled, then yawned so wide Emily could count his teeth. "Come on, buddy, time to go home." "Can't we stay?" "Emily has a really big couch." Emily and Jack exchanged glances. "Not tonight," Jack said gently, "but maybe another time." As Jack gathered their things, Tommy hugged Emily tight. "Thank you for coming to my play. And for the pizza, and for being Dad's special friend. Thank you for being my special friend, too." "Emily," Tommy's voice was sleepy but serious. "Are you going to be around for a long time?" Emily looked at Jack over Tommy's head, saw the same question in his eyes. "I hope so," she said. "I really hope so." After they left, Emily stood in her apartment that still smelled faintly of pizza and Tommy's excitement. Her phone was buzzing with messages she'd ignored all evening. The Singapore deal needed attention. There was a crisis with the Milan office. The board wanted an emergency meeting tomorrow. But all she could think about was Jack saying he was falling in love with her, Tommy's improvised line about her hair, the three of them eating imperfect pizza on her expensive carpet like it was the most natural thing in the world. Her phone rang. Her father. "You missed the board meeting prep," he said without preamble. "I was at a school play." "A school play? You missed a critical meeting for a children's school play." "Yes." There was a long pause. "The Turner boy." "Tommy." "Yes." Another pause. "Emily, I've been thinking, maybe I've been wrong about this situation." Emily nearly dropped her phone. "What?" "Peterson tells me you've been happier these past weeks than he's ever seen you. Your work hasn't suffered. In fact, you've been more decisive, more focused during the hours you are working." "What are you saying, Dad?" "I'm saying maybe having a life outside the office isn't the disaster I thought it would be. Maybe it's what you needed." "Dad, are you feeling okay?" "Don't push it," Richard said, but there was warmth in his voice. "Just be careful. both with your heart and your safety. The FBI hasn't found who sent that second threat yet. After hanging up, Emily walked to her window looking out at the city lights. Somewhere out there, Jack was tucking Tommy into bed, probably reading him a story about superheroes or dinosaurs. Somewhere out there was a modest two-story house where she felt more at home than in her luxury penthouse. Somewhere out there was a life she'd never imagined wanting, but now couldn't imagine living without. Her phone buzzed. A text from Jack. Tommy's asleep. He wants to know if you can come to Saturday soccer. Fair warning, 6-year-old soccer is mostly chaos with occasional accidental goals. She typed back, wouldn't miss it. Should I bring orange slices? Already assigned to another parent. You're on cheering duty. I excel at cheering duty. You excel at everything, but especially at making us happy. Good night, Emily. Good night, Jack. Emily went to bed that night with flowers still in her hair and the ghost of Tommy's hug around her neck feeling richer than all her bank accounts had ever made her feel. Saturday morning arrived gray and drizzly, but nothing could dampen Tommy's excitement about soccer. Emily arrived at the field to find what Jack had accurately described as chaos. 12 6-year-olds in oversized jerseys chasing a ball with more enthusiasm than strategy. Emily, you came... Tommy spotted her immediately abandoning his warm-up to run over. Tommy, back to your team, his coach called. That's Coach Mike, Jack explained, appearing at her elbow with 2 cups of coffee. Former Marines thinks he can apply military strategy to first-grade soccer. He's wrong, but it's entertaining to watch him try. They stood on the sideline with the other parents, and Emily was struck by how normal it felt. Parents chatting about school events and birthday parties, sharing coffee and donuts, cheering for kids who spent more time falling down than staying upright. That's Tommy, she found herself shouting when he got near the ball, caught up in the excitement despite herself. Jack laughed. You know you're cheering for him to kick it in the right direction, right? Half the time they forget which goal is theirs. As if to prove his point, Tommy enthusiastically kicked the ball toward his own goal, then looked confused when his teammates groaned. Good kick, wrong way, Jack called out supportively. At halftime, Tommy ran over grass-stained and beaming. Did you see I almost scored Sodom on your own goal, one of his teammates pointed out. Still counts as almost scoring. Emily loved his optimism, his ability to find victory in near disaster. It was something she was learning from both Turner men that perfection wasn't the only measure of success. The second half was more of the same beautiful chaos ending in a tie that both teams celebrated like a victory. As parents packed up chairs and distributed juice boxes, a woman approached Emily, one of the other mothers she'd noticed watching them throughout the game. You're Emily Carter, aren't you, the CEO? Emily tensed slightly. Yes. I thought so. I saw the photo from the airport incident. The woman's expression was warm, not antagonistic. I just wanted to say that what Jack did was incredible. We're all so glad he's okay. Me too, Emily said softly. And it's nice to see him happy again. Tommy too. They've had a rough few years. Before Emily could respond, the woman was called away by her own child. But her words lingered. The community here knew Jack's story had watched him struggle and survive, and now they were watching him heal with her as part of that process. Everything okay? Jack asked, appearing with Tommy, who was now more grass-stained than boy. Everything's perfect, Emily said, and meant it. They went for lunch at a family restaurant where the tables were sticky and the crayons were free. Tommy drew pictures on his placemat while they waited for food, narrating each artistic choice. This is you, he told Emily, drawing a figure with yellow scribbles for hair. And this is Dad, and this is me, and we're all at the beach. Have you been to the beach? Emily asked. Once when Mom was still here. I don't really remember it, but Dad showed me pictures. That now familiar ache hit Emily's chest. So many of Tommy's memories were secondhand, filtered through loss. Maybe we could go sometime, she said, carefully glancing at Jack. All 3 of us. Tommy's eyes widened. Really? Like a vacation? If your dad says it's okay. Jack was looking at her with an expression she couldn't read. We'll see, buddy. That's a big trip. But Tommy was already planning listing everything he'd need for the beach, and Emily found herself caught up in his enthusiasm, making mental notes about child-friendly resorts within driving distance. After lunch, they went back to Jack's house. The rain had started in earnest, canceling their park plans, so they settled in for a movie afternoon. Tommy picked something involving animated dinosaurs curling up between them on the couch, with a bowl of popcorn. Halfway through the movie, Tommy fell asleep, his head on Emily's shoulder, his feet in Jack's lap. Emily hardly dared breathe, not wanting to disturb the moment. "He's comfortable with you," Jack said quietly. "He doesn't usually fall asleep on people. Too much energy. Soccer wore him out." "It's more than that." Jack's hand found hers over Tommy's sleeping form. "He feels safe with you. We both do." They sat there as the movie played on Tommy's soft snores, providing a counterpoint to the animated adventure. Emily found herself studying the room again, the photos, the lived-in furniture, the toys scattered despite Jack's best efforts at organization. This was what a home looked like, she realized. Not perfect, not styled, just lived in and loved. Her phone vibrated with yet another urgent message. The Singapore crisis was escalating. The board was demanding her immediate attention. The corporate world was calling her back. But Tommy shifted in his sleep, burrowing closer to her side, and Emily made a decision. She turned her phone completely off and let herself just be present in this moment. Rain pattering against windows, animated dinosaurs saving the day. A little boy's trust heavy and warm against her side. "I love you," she whispered. Not sure if she was talking to Jack or Tommy or both. Jack squeezed her hand. "We love you too." The rain continued outside, but inside the small house in Riverside, Emily Carter had found something she hadn't even known she was looking for, a family imperfect and beautiful, and hers if she was brave enough to claim it. Her phone stayed off for the rest of the afternoon. The corporate world could wait. This Tommy's sleepy breathing, Jack's thumb tracing circles on her hand, the simple pleasure of a rainy Saturday, this was what mattered. As evening approached and Tommy stirred from his nap, demanding snacks and another movie, Emily helped Jack make sandwiches in the kitchen. They moved around each other easily now, familiar with each other's rhythms, comfortable in shared space. "Stay for dinner?" Jack asked. "I should probably get back. I've been ignoring work all day and—" "Stay," he said simply. "Please." Emily looked at him, at Tommy bouncing on the couch in anticipation of movie number 2 at this life that had somehow become hers without her quite planning it. "Okay," she said. "I'll stay." Jack's smile was worth all the angry board members in the world. They made spaghetti again. Tommy insisted it was tradition now, and Emily learned the Turner family dinner rules. Everyone shared their favorite part of the day. Vegetables were negotiable, but trying was mandatory, and dessert happened only if plates were cleared. "My favorite part was Emily cheering at soccer," Tommy announced. "My favorite was Tommy almost scoring, even if it was the wrong goal," Emily said, making him giggle. "My favorite," Jack said, looking directly at Emily, "was all of it, every minute." After dinner, after dishes, and another movie, and Tommy's elaborate bedtime routine that Emily was now part of, she and Jack stood on his front porch, neither wanting the day to end. "I should go," Emily said, not moving. "You should," Jack agreed, also not moving. "The Singapore office is probably in full meltdown by now." "Probably." "And tomorrow's Sunday. Tommy probably has plans." "Church in the morning, but you could come." Emily looked at him surprised. "To church?" Why not? Tommy would love it, and the congregation would be thrilled to meet the famous Emily they've been hearing about. "You talk about me at church. Tommy talks about you everywhere. Grocery store, bank, post office. You're basically a local celebrity now." Emily laughed. "I've been called a lot of things, but never a local celebrity in Riverside. It's a good thing. People here, they take care of their own. And you're one of ours now, whether you know it or not." The words warmed her more than any business compliment ever had. "One of yours," she repeated softly. "If you want to be." "I want to be." Jack kissed her, then soft and sure on his front porch, where any neighbor could see, claiming her as his in this simple, public way. When they pulled apart, Mrs. Henderson from next door was on her porch pretending not to watch, while definitely watching. "That'll be all over the neighborhood by tomorrow," Jack said, not sounding bothered at all. "Good," Emily said, surprising herself with how much she meant it. As she drove home back to her tower in the sky, Emily thought about belonging. She'd never really belonged anywhere, too driven for the socialites, too privileged for the workers, too female for many boardrooms, too young for others. She'd carved out her place through sheer force of will and brilliance, but it had always been a fight. But in Riverside with Jack and Tommy, she just fit. Not perfectly, not without adjustments, but naturally like a puzzle piece finding its place. Her phone, when she finally turned it back on, had 47 messages. The Singapore deal had indeed melted down. The board was furious. Her father had called 3 times. But there was also a text from Tommy sent from Jack's phone. "Good night, Emily. Thank you for being our special friend. Love, Tommy." Emily looked at the chaos of her corporate life on one side and Tommy's simple message on the other. For the first time in her life, the choice was easy. She started returning the business calls, fixing what could be fixed, delegating what could be delegated, and accepting that some things would just have to wait. Because tomorrow was Sunday, and Tommy wanted her at church, and Jack's eyes had lit up when she'd said yes, and some things were more important than Singapore mergers. Some things were worth rearranging your whole life for. As she worked through the corporate triage, Emily found herself humming the silly song from Tommy's dinosaur movie. She couldn't remember the last time she'd hummed anything. Her laptop dinged with an urgent email from Singapore. She opened it, ready to dive into whatever crisis awaited, but found herself looking instead at the photo on her desk, the one from the park, all 3 of them laughing. The email could wait another minute. Emily picked up the photo, tracing the faces with her finger. Jack strong and steady and kind. Tommy bright and loving and resilient. And herself looking happier than she'd ever seen herself look. "I'm falling in love with you too," she said to Jack's image. She'd been too scared to say it earlier, too uncertain of her own heart. But sitting here in her sterile office, surrounded by the trappings of success that suddenly felt hollow, she knew. She loved them, both of them. This complicated, beautiful, impossible love that didn't fit any spreadsheet or business model. Her phone rang. "Jack. Just wanted to make sure you got home safe," he said. "I did. I'm dealing with the Singapore situation now." "I'm sorry. I kept you from work all day." "No," Emily interrupted. "Don't apologize. Today was perfect, every minute of it. Even Tommy's wrong way goal. Especially that. Jack, She took a breath. "I love you too. I should have said it earlier, but I love you, and Tommy, and this life we're building." The silence on the other end lasted just long enough for Emily to panic. Then Jack said, "Say it again." "I love you." "Again." "I love you, Jack Turner." "I'm never going to get tired of hearing that." "Good, because I'm never going to get tired of saying it." After they hung up, Emily attacked the Singapore problem with renewed focus, because the sooner she solved this, the sooner she could get back to what mattered. The sooner she could get back home. Home. Not her penthouse, but a small house in Riverside, where love lived in every corner, where she was learning to be not just successful, but happy. Where she was learning to be herself. Sunday morning came earlier than Emily expected, her alarm set for 7 to make the 8:30 service at Jack's church. She stood in her closet again, but this time the choice felt more significant. What did one wear to a small community church in Riverside when you were Emily Carter, CEO, billionaire's daughter, and now wonderfully and possibly Jack Turner's girlfriend? She settled on a simple dress, modest and understated, the kind of thing she might have worn in college before her life became all power suits and designer labels. Looking at herself in the mirror, she hardly recognized the woman staring back, softer, somehow less armored. The drive to Riverside felt different this morning, purposeful rather than escape. She was choosing this, choosing them, choosing a life she'd never imagined but now couldn't imagine living without. Jack and Tommy were waiting outside the small brick church. Tommy in a button-down shirt that was already coming untucked. Jack in slacks and a tie that Emily recognized from the hospital, probably his only one. "Emily." Tommy bounced over to her. "You really came to church." "I said I would." "Yeah, but sometimes grown-ups say things and then don't do them. Like when Dad says we'll clean my room later, but then later never comes." "Tommy," Jack warned, but he was smiling. The church was nothing like the grand cathedrals Emily had occasionally attended for business connections or charity events. It was small, intimate, with worn pews and slightly off-key organ music, but the warmth was immediate and genuine. "You must be Emily." An elderly woman approached them almost instantly. "I'm Mrs. Chen. Tommy's told us all about you. Says you live in the clouds." "Something like that," Emily said, charmed by the woman's directness. "Well, any friend of the Turners is family here. They've been through enough. It's good to see them happy again." Throughout the service, Emily was aware of the gentle curiosity directed their way, but it wasn't intrusive or judgmental. These people had clearly walked alongside Jack through his grief, had probably brought casseroles when Sarah died, had watched Tommy when Jack had to work. They were invested not in Emily Carter, the CEO, but in Emily, who made their Jack smile again. Tommy sat between them, swinging his legs and occasionally whispering questions that had nothing to do with the service. "Emily, do you think dinosaurs went to church?" "I don't think they had churches." "But what about dinosaur heaven?" Jack leaned over. "Buddy, inside voice." "That was my inside voice. My outside voice is louder." After the service, they were swept into coffee hour, where Emily met what felt like the entire congregation. Everyone had a Tommy story, a memory of Sarah to share carefully, a word of kindness for Jack. She understood now what he'd meant about community, about belonging. These people were family in all the ways that mattered. "Your Emily seems nice." Emily overheard Mrs. Chen telling Jack, "Sarah would approve." "You think—" Jack's voice was soft. "I know. Sarah wanted you to be happy, Jack. She told me so near the end. Said you were too good a man to spend your life alone." Emily pretended not to have heard, but the words settled into her heart like seeds finding soil. They went to lunch at what Tommy declared was the best pancake place in the whole world, a claim that seemed supported by the line out the door. While they waited, Tommy regaled Emily with his plans for summer vacation, which started in just 2 weeks. "Dad says maybe we can go camping." "Have you ever been camping, Emily?" "No, I haven't." Tommy's eyes widened with the zealousness of a 6-year-old who'd found a new project. "Then you have to come with us, Dad. Emily has to come camping." "Camping might not be Emily's thing, buddy." "Actually," Emily said, surprising herself, "I'd love to try camping, though I should warn you, my idea of roughing it is usually a hotel without room service. We can teach you what the—" Tommy was bouncing with excitement. "You need a sleeping bag and a flashlight and s'mores stuff and—" "Slow down there, champ. Let's get through pancakes first." But Emily was already making mental notes, already imagining nights under stars with these two, learning yet another thing that her privileged upbringing had skipped. After lunch, they went back to Jack's house, where Tommy immediately wanted to show Emily his camping gear from last year's trip. While he rummaged in the garage, Jack and Emily sat on the back porch watching clouds gather for another spring storm. "You don't have to go camping with us," Jack said. "Tommy gets excited, but I know it's not—" "Jack, stop. I want to go. I want to try everything with you two. Camping, fishing, whatever comes next. Little League starts next month. I'll be there. School field trip to the zoo. Wouldn't miss it. Random Tuesday nights when nothing happens except homework and frozen pizza. Especially those." Jack turned to look at her fully. "Emily, are you sure your life is so big, so important? This—" He gestured at the modest backyard, the aging swing set, the ordinary Sunday afternoon. "This is so small in comparison." "No," Emily said firmly. "This is huge. This is everything. Jack, I spent last night fixing a multi-million-dollar deal, and the whole time I was thinking about Tommy's soccer game. The deal will be forgotten in a month, but Tommy scoring his first goal even in the wrong direction, that matters. That's real." Before Jack could respond, Tommy burst onto the porch, dragging a sleeping bag. "Found it. And look, it has bears on it. Emily, you need one with clouds since you live in the clouds." The afternoon slipped away in camping preparation. Tommy earnestly explaining the importance of proper marshmallow roasting technique, while Jack watched with that soft smile Emily had come to treasure. When Tommy finally crashed on the couch around 4, exhausted from his camping enthusiasm, Jack and Emily found themselves alone in the kitchen. "He's planning our whole summer," Jack said, voice fond but worried. "Emily, I need you to know if this gets to be too much, if you need to pull back up." "Stop," Emily said, moving into his arms. "Stop giving me outs. I'm not looking for them. I just don't want you to feel obligated." I love you, she interrupted. I love Tommy. I love this life. That's not obligation, that's choice. Jack kissed her, then deep and certain, and Emily felt herself melt into it, into him, into this life she was claiming with both hands. The moment was broken by Emily's phone buzzing insistently. She'd been ignoring it all day, but the persistent calls suggested something serious. It's my father, she said, looking at the display. Fourth time he's called. Take it, Jack said. I'll check on Tommy. Emily stepped onto the porch to answer. Dad, it's Sunday. Emily, you need to come home, now. The urgency in his voice made her blood run cold. What's wrong? There's been another threat, more specific this time. The FBI wants you in protective custody. Dad? They mentioned the Turner boy by name Emily. They know about them. Emily's knees nearly buckled. Tommy. They threatened Tommy. And Jack. Emily, these people, whoever they are, they're serious. You need to distance yourself from the Turners for their safety. I'll be right there. She hung up and found Jack watching her from the doorway, having heard enough to understand. They threatened Tommy, she said, voice hollow. Because of me. They threatened a 6-year-old boy because of me. Emily, I have to go. The FBI wants to brief me. Jack, I'm so sorry. I never imagined they'd... Hey! Jack caught her hand, stilling their trembling. This is not your fault. How is it not my fault they're targeting you because of me? And I'd take another bullet for you, so would Tommy, though I'd rather he didn't have to prove it. This isn't funny, Jack. I'm not joking. Emily, when I jumped in front of that gun, I made a choice. Every day since then, I've made the same choice to let you into our lives, knowing who you are and what comes with that. But Tommy has been living with risk his whole life, different kinds, but still risk. The risk that I'll get hurt at work and won't come home. The risk that we'll lose the house if I miss too much work. The risk that comes with just being alive. He pulled her closer. At least this risk comes with FBI protection. You're not taking this seriously enough. I'm taking it exactly as seriously as it deserves. Emily, what did the threat actually say? She repeated what her father had told her, and Jack's expression grew thoughtful rather than fearful. So they know about us. That was always going to happen once those photos from the park went public. The question is whether this is a real threat or someone trying to scare you. We can't take that chance, not with Tommy. Agreed. So we take precautions. We let the FBI do their job. But Emily, if you run now, if you let them chase you away from us, don't you see they win? They take away the best thing that's happened to Tommy and me since Sarah died. Emily felt tears sliding down her cheeks. I couldn't live with myself if something happened to either of you. And I couldn't live with myself if I let fear steal this from us. From Tommy. Jack wiped her tears with gentle thumbs. Stay, fight, let us stand with you this time. Jack. Dad. Tommy's sleepy voice interrupted them. He stood in the doorway, rubbing his eyes. Why is Emily crying? Emily quickly wiped her face. Just some work stuff, sweetheart. Tommy walked over and wrapped his arms around her waist. It's okay. Dad says sometimes work makes people sad, but then you come home and home makes it better. The simple wisdom of it broke Emily's heart. You're right. Home does make it better. So you're staying for dinner? Emily looked at Jack over Tommy's head. He nodded slightly, decision made. I have to go handle something, but I'll be back for dinner. Is that okay? Promise? Promise. The drive to her father's office was tense, Peterson following closer than usual, another security car ahead of them. The FBI was waiting, Director Mitchell and 2 other agents Emily didn't recognize. Miss Carter, we need to discuss relocating you to a safe house, Mitchell began without preamble. No. Ms. Carter, I'll accept increased security. I'll vary my routines, take whatever precautions you recommend, but I'm not going into hiding. The Turner family will also have protection, Emily said firmly. Whatever it costs, whatever it takes. They have security on them at all times. Her father interjected, Emily, be reasonable. The safest thing for everyone is for you to distance yourself. The safest thing would be to never leave this building, Emily shot back. To never have a life, never love anyone, never take any risks. Is that what you want for me, Dad? To be safe but alone. Richard was quiet for a moment. I want you alive. I am alive. For the first time in my adult life, I'm actually alive. Jack and Tommy did that. They made me real dad. Not just successful, not just powerful, real. Mitchell cleared her throat. We can provide protection for the Turners, but Mr. Turner would need to agree to it, and the boys' school would need to be informed. Then make it happen, Emily turned to her father. And I want to know who's behind this. All your resources, all your connections, find them. Richard studied his daughter for a long moment, then nodded. Peterson doubled the investigation team. Mitchell, what do you need from us? The next hour was a blur of security protocols and plans. Emily agreed to a tracking device panic buttons, the whole surveillance apparatus she'd resisted for years. But she refused to be caged. There's one more thing, Mitchell said as the meeting wrapped up. We've identified the source of the first threat. It was Castellani's son trying to avenge his father. He's been arrested. And the second threat? Still investigating. But the language is different, the approach more sophisticated. We don't think they're connected. Emily's phone buzzed. Jack, Tommy wants to know if you like tacos. He's worried you only eat fancy food. Despite everything, Emily smiled. She texted back, tell him tacos are perfect. I have to go, what? She told the room. I promised a 6-year-old I'd be there for dinner. Emily, her father said as she headed for the door. Be careful. I will. But Dad, being careful isn't the same as being scared. The drive back to Riverside took longer with the new security protocols, but Emily didn't mind. It gave her time to think, to solidify her resolve. Someone wanted to scare her away from happiness. They'd failed. When she arrived at Jack's house now, with a discreet security presence that would become constant, Tommy was in the front yard watching for her. You came back. I promised, didn't I? Yeah, but grown-ups sometimes. I know, but I'm not going anywhere, Tommy, not if I can help it. Inside, Jack had indeed made tacos, and the normalcy of it. Shells and cheese and lettuce scattered across the counter made Emily's throat tight with emotion. Everything okay? Jack asked quietly while Tommy set the table. It will be. Security on all of us starting now. The FBI is investigating. And you? Are you okay? Emily considered lying, making it easier, but Jack deserved truth. I'm terrified. Not for me, but for you two. And I'm angry that someone thinks they can use you to control me. And She paused, searching for the word, I'm determined to not let them win. Good. Because Tommy already made dessert plans that involve teaching you to make s'mores on the stove, and he'll be devastated if you leave. Indoor s'mores. Practice for camping. He's very serious about proper marshmallow technique. Dinner was purposefully normal. Tommy chattering about school tomorrow, about his friend Bradley's new dog, about whether fish knew they were wet. Emily let his innocent joy wash over her, let it remind her what she was fighting for. Emily, Tommy said suddenly, are you sad about work still? No, sweetheart. Being here makes me happy. Good. Dad's happier when you're here too. He smiles more. Jack's cheeks reddened slightly. Tommy. It's true. Mrs. Henderson said so. She said you look like you did when Mom was here. The table went quiet for a moment, the mention of Sarah hanging in the air. Then Tommy continued matter of fact in the way only children could be. I think Mom would like Emily. She always said we needed more hugs in our house, and Emily gives good hugs. Yes, Jack said softly, eyes on Emily. She does. After dinner and the promised s'mores lesson, which resulted in slightly charred marshmallows but perfect memories, Emily helped tuck Tommy into bed. It had become part of their rhythm when she was there, Tommy insisting on stories from both adults. Emily, will you be here tomorrow? Tommy asked, fighting sleep. I have to work tomorrow, but I'll come by after if your dad says it's okay. Dad always says it's okay. He likes when you visit. Oh, really? Really? He cleans the house before you come over. He only does that for special people. Time for sleep, buddy, Jack intervened, kissing Tommy's forehead. School tomorrow. Will the people in the dark car be at school too? Tommy asked suddenly. Emily and Jack exchanged shocked looks. What people, sweetheart? Emily asked carefully. The ones who've been watching our house and following us to church. Dad, are they bad people? Jack sat on the edge of the bed. No, buddy. They're actually good people. They're making sure we're safe. Like police. Exactly like police. Because of what happened at the airport. Something like that. Tommy seemed to consider this. Okay, as long as they're good guys. He yawned hugely. Night, Dad. Night, Emily. Outside Tommy's room, Emily slumped against the wall. He knows. 6 years old, and he's already noticed the security. Kids notice everything, Jack said, but he's not scared. That's what matters. How are you so calm about this? Because being scared doesn't help. And because I meant what I said, this is worth the risk. They stood in the hallway of Jack's modest house, security lurking outside, threats hanging over them, and Emily made a decision. I want to hire you, she said suddenly. Jack's eyebrows shot up. What? Not like that. Well, sort of like that. Carter Industries needs a new head of security logistics. It's a real position, one you're qualified for with your military background. Better pay, better hours, better benefits. Emily, before you say no, hear me out. This isn't charity. This is me being practical. If we're going to make this work long term, we need to be in the same world at least partially. You working at the airport, me in the corporate tower, it's not sustainable. You want me to work for your company? I want you to work with me. Different departments, but same building, same world, same schedule mostly. Tommy could go to the corporate daycare. It's one of the best in the city. Jack was quiet for a long moment. People would talk, say I was sleeping my way to success. Let them. We both know the truth. Tommy loves his school, his friends. So he stays there. The commute's not that much worse from downtown than from the airport. Emily, this is too much. No, it's not enough. Jack, I'm done pretending we can keep these lives separate. Someone's threatening us because of who I am. The least I can do is make sure you're both protected, provided for. I don't need you to provide for us. I know, but maybe I need to. Maybe I need to know that if something happens to me, you and Tommy are okay. Maybe I need you close during the day so I know you're safe. Maybe I'm being selfish. Jack studied her in the dim hallway light. You've thought about this. Since the moment Tommy asked if I'd be around for a long time. Jack, I want to be. But my world is dangerous, complicated. If you're going to be in it, really in it, then I want you equipped for it. And if I say no, then you say no, and we find another way. But Jack, think about it, please. He pulled her into his arms, holding her tight against his chest. You know what Sarah would say right now? What? She'd say I was an idiot if I let pride keep me from taking care of Tommy properly. She'd say that love means being practical sometimes. Sarah sounds like she was very wise. She was. She would have liked you, Emily. You both put family first, just in different ways. They stood there holding each other while the house settled around them, while security kept watch outside, while the world with all its threats and complications waited. But inside this small circle of arms and warmth and love, Emily felt safer than she'd ever felt in her tower. Stay, Jack whispered. Not like that. Just stay. The couch pulls out. I need to know you're safe tonight. Emily knew she should go home, knew there were 100 reasons why staying was complicated. But Tommy was upstairs sleeping peacefully, and Jack's arms were around her, and sometimes the heart's logic was the only one that mattered. Okay, she whispered back. I'll stay. They made up the pull-out couch together, domestic in its simplicity, intimate in its trust. Jack found her an old t-shirt and sweatpants to sleep in, and Emily thought she'd never worn anything more precious than Jack Turner's decade-old Marine shirt. I'll be right upstairs if you need anything, Jack said, hesitating at the stairs. Jack, thank you for not running, for not letting me run. Emily, you saved us first. That day you came for dinner when you chose to see us, really see us, you saved us from disappearing into grief. This is just returning the favor. After he went upstairs, Emily lay on the pull-out couch in the dark living room, city girl out of place, but perfectly at home. She could hear the house breathing around her, the settle of old wood, the hum of the refrigerator, the distant sound of Tommy turning over in his sleep. Her phone lit up with messages, the board wanting answers, her father wanting updates, the whole mechanism of her other life demanding attention. But Emily turned the phone face down and closed her eyes. Tomorrow, she'd return to her tower, fight her battles, run her empire. But tonight, she was just Emily sleeping in her boyfriend's living room, protected not by money or power, but by love and choice, and the simple courage of ordinary people doing extraordinary things for each other. Somewhere outside, security kept watch. Somewhere in the city, people plotted and threatened. But here in this small house in Riverside, love stood guard. And that Emily thought as sleep finally claimed her was the strongest protection of all. She woke once during the night to find a small figure standing beside the couch. "Tommy, you okay, sweetheart? I had a weird dream. Can I sit with you for a minute?" Emily scooted over, making room for him on the pullout. Tommy curled into her side, small and warm and trusting. "Want to tell me about the dream?" There were dinosaurs, but they were wearing ties like Dad's, and they had to go to meetings. Emily stifled a laugh. "That does sound weird." "Emily, are you going to marry my dad?" The question, innocent and direct, made Emily's heart skip. "I don't know, sweetheart. Would that be okay with you if I did?" "Yeah, then you'd be my Emily forever." "I'm already your Emily. But if you married Dad, you'd have to be. It would be a rule." 6-year-old logic perfect in its simplicity. Emily pressed a kiss to his hair. "Then maybe someday." "Good." Tommy yawned. "I should go back to bed. School tomorrow." "Good idea." He padded back upstairs but paused at the landing. "Emily, I love you." "I love you too, Tommy. I'm glad the bad guys at the airport didn't get you." "Me too, sweetheart. Me too." As silence returned to the house, Emily thought about the strange journey that had brought her here from the airport floor, covered in Jack's blood, to this pull-out couch that squeaked with every movement. From Emily Carter, untouchable CEO, to just Emily, who was learning to make s'mores and judge 6-year-old soccer. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was a message from an unknown number. You can't protect them forever. Emily's blood chilled, but then she heard Jack moving upstairs, checking on Tommy being a father even in sleep. She thought about Tommy's innocent trust, his certainty that good guys would keep them safe. She forwarded the message to Director Mitchell, then typed a response to the unknown sender, "Watch me." Because Emily Carter had built an empire from ambition and intelligence. She'd negotiated with titans of industry and won. She'd survived an assassination attempt and turned it into love, protecting the two people who'd taught her what life was actually for. That wasn't just possible. That was everything.